Hi everyone, welcome to my live stream of my review for the Marvels and our spoiler discussion. So this is the first time I'm going to be trying one of these. I was thinking of doing a quick movie review, but then I thought, why don't I try to do a live stream? This way because I just had too much to talk about when it came to this movie, so I thought we'd do the live stream here. Oh, bear with me a second. Alright, so let's just... I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes for you guys to come in, and the Movie King has left 2 super chats right before we've even gotten into it. So I'll quickly answer your questions, and I'll do that thing I was going to do. Movie King says, "You want to know what's weird? The only time Marvel or the MCU is even remotely successful is when they let other talented people have control over those projects. No Way Home, Guardians 3, and Deadpool 3. That is kind of true. It's like lately, the only good comic book projects are really coming out from people that are not under Marvel's control. So Sony kind of do what they want to do, although I'm sure they leave it really to Marvel. But they definitely did say to him, no, you gotta let us make Spider-Man about Spider-Man, because apparently No Way Home was going to have America Chavez in it from Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, and she was going to punch multiverse holes through, portals through, that would basically allow the other Spider-Men to come in, but because of the pandemic, they weren't able to, so they had to come up with another way. That's how Ned was able to, like, just spin those and, get those rings coming through. So, originally they were going to put another female character in, but because of the pandemic, it was an all, essentially a guys running the show kind of movie, which is very rare for Marvel nowadays. So, yeah, I do agree with you in that way. And Guardians 3, that was left to James Gunn. Deadpool 3, let's hope Marvel don't think we need to come in and fix things, so we're going to start taking control. I don't want them to become another Warner Brothers. Because interestingly, after this movie, Marvel have basically delayed all of their films for next year in 2024 and have pushed them to 2025. That reminds me a lot of what DC did when the pandemic happened and when they knew new leadership was coming in. They kept delaying Shazam, and they delayed especially movies like Aquaman and The Flash. They kept on delaying them. And what happened? In 2023, they had 4 movies, DC movies. They had Shazam 2. They also had The Flash, Blue Beetle, and now we're going to get Aquaman 2 at the end of this year. That's 4 comic book movies in 1 year that they had to push and delay. And guess what Marvel is going to have in 2025? They're going to have the Captain America Brave New World. They're going to have Thunderbolts. They're going to have another movie, which I can't remember, but it wasn't really that all interesting anyway. And they're also going to have... Oh, it was Armor Wars, I think it was. And they're also going to have... end of the year, what was it? Blade, apparently. Although I'm guessing they're going to delay that again. And the fact that Captain America Brave New World is put on February, that's normally one of the months they don't care about movies, particularly when they put big blockbusters on there. Some movies can make it work, like Deadpool, but this is no Deadpool, so for them to put a non-Valentine's movie on Valentine's Day, that sounds more like they've already given up on it. Apparently they're going to do a lot of reshoots on it too, so... And the Movie King 3000 says, also, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen, but the mid-credit scene for the Marvels just reeks of desperation, like they knew this movie was trash. I have seen that mid-credit scene, and don't worry, we will be talking about that too. So, alright everyone, so I've caught up on those 2 super chats. Now, as always, what's going to happen is I'm going to review the movie, and I'm not going to be answering any of your questions. I will take a look at them and glance at them, but ultimately I'll be trying to stay focused on my review. And because this really did work the last time I did it, when I was focusing on the subject at hand, and then I did a Q&A later. The only questions that I will accept during the review, and that I will answer during the review, are going to be super chats. So if you have super chats, that means that you'll get like a VIP access in a way. It's like I'll instantly answer your question during the stream. But for everyone else, you're going to have to wait for the Q&A session towards the end. But if you really want to get something in there and then, it'll have to be through super chats. Now, let me just quickly change the color correction on this, because I think I need to darken my image. It's a bit too bright. So, there we go. Bear with me a second. I just got to check on one more thing. Alright, got that sorted. Okay, so has anyone, I'm going to ask all of you, has anyone seen The Marvels? I'll wait for you guys to respond. You are about to watch it, says Aura. If you moved away from Marvel, raise your hands. Well, I moved away from them a long time ago. If you guys will remember that for as long as I've been on this channel, I've always had a problem with Marvel's comedy. So, you know, only reason I've... it's just, that's something I've always had a problem with Marvel. A lot of no's, wow. Cool, that's quite a lot of no's that just came in. Man, did any of... I have not. No, I'm not interested in the MCU anymore. Wow, a lot of you. Why would I waste my money? I thought there would be some yeses. Jess says the only movie he's going to see is going to be Aquaman 2. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that too. Amber Heard aside, but I'm going to be using a free ticket, so I'm not going to be supporting her for that. Batman's Gamer says, dude, I'm just waiting for a 3-way versus video in the Marvel Spider-Man video games. Please, we need you, man. Let the battle commence. I'm already working on a versus battle of Spider-Man 1 for PS4 versus Spider-Man 2 for PS5. I've already played the game, so it's just games take harder to do versus videos on. It's why I don't do them often. I've only ever done one, which was Injustice 1 versus Injustice 2. So don't worry, I will do it, but you gotta be patient and wait. I haven't even written the script fully yet. It's just a lot to talk about. Some people saying eventually on Disney Plus. Scarecrow says, will I review Blue Beetle? I haven't even seen that yet. I still have to see it. Kid Fury, no, you haven't really missed anything. I've just popped onto the stream, just started introducing and everything. So you don't have to rewind it. You can rewind it and watch that later if you want to. You can stay live right now with us. Someone says, just pay for a different ticket, then use it to watch Aquaman 2. Yeah, that is something, but I've got something better. I've got a free emergency ticket for my theater because they gave me a bad experience with one of the previous movies I saw, so I get to use that instead. And plus, I don't know, that does seem a little bit... You can do something like that, but it's not something that I really do now. Probably if I was younger, I wanted to get into a grown-up movie, but not anymore. Jess says, how was your day, Eric? My day is very good. I will say, I've actually gotten a lot better. My last live stream, I was catching a cold. And, yeah, I got worse when that stream was over, but I am a lot better now. The only thing that's going on now is that I tend to get more tired. That is the only thing. Let's hope it doesn't happen during this live stream. Someone says, love your videos, Eric. J Spider Pop 30. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy them. Okay, so I've got 63 of you watching right now. Please do share the stream and tell as many people as you can about it, and more people can hopefully catch it. But we're going to start talking about some stuff. Now, the budget, before we get into what I thought about this movie, let's first talk about the budget. Now, the budget for the Marvels was apparently $225 to $275 million. That's at least what they've told us publicly. Because much like with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the movie could very much cost more money, but they're just not telling us about it. And then we'll find out eventually, because Disney, their budgets are so bloated. A movie like this should not cost $225 to $275 million. And this is before marketing, by the way. So, the numbers have come in for how much money this movie made over the weekend. And I'm only going to be talking about the domestic opening here. Domestically, this movie made $45 million on that budget. And just to put it into perspective for you guys, when a movie opens, that is usually the highest number it's going to open to. Very rarely do movies have an uptick and go above that in the later weeks. Very rarely, basically in the first week, that is where the movie makes the most of its money in that first week, in the opening weekend. The next weekends they'll start making more money too, but it'll have to accumulate over the course of weeks. But usually the box office numbers go down after the first week. So basically, this is the most amount of money they've made from American audiences in its opening weekend. So, the coming week, you're going to be seeing drops in this figure. It's going to be going down. So that is the most amount of money that they've already seen. And to put it into perspective, domestically, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania made about, I think it was, if I remember correctly, was it over $100 million domestically in terms of box office. And yeah, that movie also turned out to be a bomb, but this movie's doing even worse, and it cost the same, if not more money, as that film. So yeah, this is really not working out well for them. And to be honest, I saw it coming. I didn't think it would end up being this bad for them, but look at that. It turns out even less people have been interested. And do you know what's really interesting about this movie? Despite it being really sold and advertised as being a movie for women, like at D23, they were like, this movie is written by women, directed by women, acted by women, made for women. So you would think, kind of like how Barbie had a huge leaning towards female audiences, you'd kind of think that the Marvels would have that, you know. But it turns out it didn't, because apparently 65% of the audience for this movie on opening weekend were men. Only 35% of the audience was women. So that tells you right there, something that a lot of people have always known. Comic book movies is a male-dominated genre. More guys want to go to see comic book movies than women do. And yeah, this pretty much just proves it, that theory that Marvel were thinking, let's focus on the female audience. It's like, yeah, you focused on them, but they didn't show up. A lot of guys didn't show up either, but the people that did show up, it was still majority guys. So that says a lot right there with regards to their marketing plan to make this more female-centric and stuff. It's like, yeah, you can, but it's still a male-dominated genre. A lot of fandom has become more broad, which I'm very happy to see, because back when I was growing up, you were kind of considered the geek or the nerd if you were really into comic book movies and stuff. But now fandom is more broad. Comic book movies are more they're more trendy. They don't make you look like a loser anymore, which I'm very happy with. And the fan base has expanded too. More women are fans of comic book movies now too, and I'm very happy with that. But you gotta remember, the guys are still the core fan base. There are a lot of movies that I have gone to see in theaters, comic book movies that my sister has not even gone to see. So when I saw Birds of Prey, I went to see that. My sister didn't really care. In fact, when she did see it, she asked me to get Deadpool, because Deadpool was far better, and it felt like Birds of Prey was trying to copy it. And, you know, my mum and my sisters, they don't care about the Marvels. Quite frankly, even I didn't care about it. I only went to go see it so I can do the video for you guys. So yeah, box office wise, doesn't seem to be doing good. But does it deserve all this bad press that it's getting and these bad box office numbers? Well, that is something that we are going to find out about right now. So we're going to get into my review for the Marvels. So let's start off with the story. What story? That's literally what I can say about the story. It's just bad guys doing bad guy things. That's your story for the Marvels. Literally, the way the movie opens, the way it all starts, there's nothing in it that feels like it's developing a story. It's just the opening of the movie is like, here's the bad guy. And they don't even bother to build this bad guy up or give her a reveal. They just literally just show her and just use a lazy camera angle they just show her face with a very lazy camera angle. No build up, no style, no entrance, no nothing. They just say, there's the villain. She's collected the item that she needs. She's used it to cause a bit of damage, and now we're going to cut to Captain Marvel. Or should I say Miss Marvel. And I want to talk about that, the way they introduced the villain at the beginning of the movie. Now, the very first scene, we are introduced to the villain of the movie, and the editing was so abrupt, and it was so fast, that it honestly just gave me whiplash. I was like, wait, have we just been introduced to the villain? Are we now cutting to our main character and we're having the titles and everything? It's like, this just felt like it was just rushed. Like I had just sat down to watch the movie. The movie just started, and already we're past the villain introduction, and already we're getting into the one of our main heroes, and everything just felt like it was so quick. That was so bizarre to me. And yeah, we will talk about the villain, don't worry. We'll talk about that villain. But if you've seen the trailer, you'll know that our three heroes keep switching places when they use their powers, right? And there's times where they switch places, and the movie just cuts to them back home, back to where they originally were, without showing you their reactions or what happened during the switch. It'll show what happened during the switch for one of the characters, but not for all three of them. And at the beginning, you really need to see what happens with the switch for all three of them, and not just cut to one of them. This is what happens when one of them switches. Alright, now this is what happens when the other one switches back. It just felt very weird and bizarre the way that happened. It was like, the editing is very off in this, and when you consider how many reshoots there were, that is not hard to believe. And the film, I will say, just throughout had some very strange and questionable editing, where you can tell they're trying to cover up something, because now they're about to transition to one of the reshoots they did, and the reshoots does not connect with what they shot previously. So they have very weird edits where you can tell they're trying to cover some weird editing up. So that was something that really stood out to me, and I'm not the only one that said this. A lot of people have found the editing in this movie to be very off. And it also felt like there were countless scenes cut from the movie too. With its hour and 45-minute runtime, everything goes by so quick, and you never really feel like you have time to let anything sit with you. And the movie really does feel like it's in a rush to get to the end credit scene, which we will talk about later, but it's clear that Marvel just wanted you to forget about this movie and just quickly pay attention to the end credit scenes. But when you get a whole movie like this, you just can't. Now, I will say, the movie wasn't good, but I thought it was ultimately harmless and mediocre in the first 30 minutes or so. Honestly, I thought there were good elements in there. None of those good elements came from, I would say, Brie Larson or the actress that plays Monica Rambeau, but I'll get to those in a minute. But I'll say it's definitely not what... I will say, even though I didn't think it was that bad, it's definitely not what Marvel needs right now. But it's just below average at best, which is not what you want from a movie like this, especially one that costs this much money and is supposed to be a Marvel movie. It's like below average at best. That is not good, especially considering that people apparently say Loki Season 2 is much better, and that is technically free to watch at home once you've got Disney+. So you're getting a lot more content, or better quality content, you could say, from the same studio on that streaming service. So it's like you don't even have to leave home. And you can watch something that's still Marvel, and that's still technically better. Now, I will say, the movie was just below average, but then we got to the singing planet, and that's when this went from okay to insultingly terrible. Now... This is the singing planet that we get to, where in order to communicate, the inhabitants of this planet all have to sing. And for some reason, Carol puts what looks like this mushroom with confetti over her head, and she says, she's acting like it's awkward. This is weird. Don't question it. Let's just do this. And I'm thinking, why is the character saying let's just do this when really the Marvel wrote this? This is a scene that they passionately wanted you to see, and it was so cringeworthy how we just... The tone already of this movie was very light, but it felt like they went even lighter with the tone. And it felt like this light tone, it feels like it just came from a completely different Disney Channel movie. That's how weird this got. It got so out of place. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that singing planet, and yeah, Roderick Bocut says singing planet. Yeah, there's a singing planet where all the inhabitants, like I said, in order to communicate, you have to sing. They have to sing. And that means if you want to communicate with them, you also have to sing. So that means Carol has to sing. And it honestly... Now, I will say with this one thing that I actually was surprised I actually enjoyed a little bit. Just a little glimmer of something that was in ultimately a load of crap. The thing that I actually enjoyed there was that even in this moment, somehow Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, she was making it a little humorous. Carol and Monica were acting awkward, as you kind of would with a scene like this. But Monica was just dancing along to everyone like a little fangirl and like an excited kid. And I did find that to be a little amusing. It was almost kind of... you don't normally catch me using this word, but it was almost a little cute and adorable. I actually found that it did feel like a kid had just been dropped into this situation, and it was kind of like, I buy her in this scenario, not the other two characters, and not the MCU as a whole. And yes, Griffin, the movie is PG-13, which I don't even know how this movie got PG-13. It was very clean, this whole film. It's like, do these rating boards even check anymore? Do they just say PG-13, PG-13, PG-13? Oh, it's a Marvel movie? Alright, PG-13. I don't even know how this movie got a 12A here in the UK. It should have... This should have been a PG, maybe, because I think there is a bit of bad language in there, but that's about it. And... So, yeah, I will say that. That was... Miss Marvel, she somehow managed to make that scene a little bit cute. I don't even know how she did it. It was so cringy, but she made it like a touch cute, at least with her part. So that was interesting. But honestly, then Carol suddenly starts sparkling, and she's wearing a jumper, but she starts sparkling, and then all of a sudden, the sparkles that are around her, all of a sudden it gets her into a dress, like a Disney princess. It's almost like Cinderella, when Cinderella sparkles with a fairy godmother and then all of a sudden she just wears a dress. That's what happened with Carol Danvers in this. All of a sudden she's in a dress and then she starts dancing and singing with the prince that apparently she is married to in this planet for some kind of peace treaty or something. And what's kind of this was just, guys, this was just so embarrassing to sit through. I was actually like cringing in my seat, and I was cringing in my seat harder. I was cringing in my seat kind of like in the same way as when I was watching Saw 10, except that was for violence, this was for just cringe. The scene went from, when the dance happened, the scene went from 95% cringe to 1,000% cringe. The only reason that 5% of cringe had been alleviated was because of Miss Marvel in that scene. But seriously, it got so cringy, and I was like, what am I even doing here? Honestly, they tried to say guys should be able to watch movies like this too, but when you do such girly little Disney Channel dance scenes in this with like a Disney princess sparkling dress transition, I'm like looking at this and I'm like, why did they even think guys would see this? How could they even say you're just a sexist guy if you don't go to watch this movie? Because this is something that is so girly. I think even grown women would look at this and think this is too ridiculous. Honestly, guys, it was so cringy. It was so bad. And it made me look at this and say, is this what Marvel are? What they are? They always interrupt serious scenes with a joke. But this felt like they had somehow gone to another level of this stuff. Because I feel like even people that accepted Marvel humor would look at this and say, this is just too dumb. I've never seen anything this dumb before. As dumb as some of these Marvel movies can be, I feel like this somehow managed to go even dumber than Thor Love and Thunder. And I thought Thor Love and Thunder was really freaking stupid, guys. And somehow this managed to get even dumber. It just makes no sense to me how Marvel were able to do that. Now, Pizza Man says only children would like this. Honestly, I would say little girls would like this. If you put this, say, a little boy in front of this, I think even he would look at this and think, what? At least if I was a little boy, I know I would have, because I was watching other movies at that time. I was watching Batman, I was watching Spider-Man, and heck, I was even watching Die Hard as well. But that's just me. But there's a little extra thing I'll say here. There are some rumors out there that have said that this dance scene originally was going to be 15 to 20 minutes long, but they cut it down to reduce the movie's runtime. So yeah, that was apparently going to be a much longer scene. And it was already hard to watch as in the length that it was, in the cut down length that it was. But to make it 10 to 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, I just can't fathom why Marvel thought that was a good idea. And yeah, that was such a horrible scene to sit through. And going back to the terrible editing, there was terrible editing here too, where you could tell some reshoots happened. When Brie gets out of the dress, they do it with a cutaway where she's already changed, and you can tell this is a reshoot, part of the reshoots, but they add some CGI sparkles over her to make it seem like she transformed back, when really, this was most likely part of the reshoots that they had cut to. I was like shocked when I saw that, because that's an edit that I would do with a very cheap YouTube video if I had to put an effect in there, or when you sometimes see me like animate posters for my Versus videos, I will sometimes move stuff around, and sometimes I will do certain tricks to make it seem like I've done something when really I've just taken a shortcut. But this shortcut here, you could just tell that it was a shortcut. It was just so bad. The editing, it just, like I said, just throughout, it's really, it's got real weird edits throughout, and it just kind of throws you off when you're watching. And then you find out that the Bloody Prince, by the way, could speak normally all along because he's bilingual, they said. So it's like, why did we have that scene there in the first place? She didn't need to sing to communicate with him. She could have just sang to him. I mean, she could have just spoke to him. So it was just so dumb. It was ridiculous. It was silly. And Marvel were trying to act like, well, look, the characters are acting awkward, so this scene is okay, it's awkward. It's like, no, you wrote that scene in here. You put it in here. So the fact you put it in here, you can't start then say, oh, what? Oh, can you believe how silly this is? It's like they're really kind of cuckoo crazy down there at Marvel. They're treating it like it's a silly scene, and the characters are saying it's silly, but then why would you put it in the movie? Because it is just that silly. It's actually destructive. The movie I said was harmless up till that point, and that is where I completely dropped off, and I was like, I thought it was below average before, but there is nothing good about it now. So that scene really did I don't know what they were thinking with that. And Kevin Feige, I don't know what Kevin Feige was thinking about that. It just really put me off. And like I said, I will actually go as far as to say that this song number is the cringiest scene in the entire MCU, and that is saying something. And then, believe it or not, we have right after that, about 2-3 minutes after, we then have a big, huge battle on this singing planet where an army suddenly shows up and starts fighting the bad guys and her army. A big battle breaks out there. I'm not kidding. It's kind of like if you remember in Spider-Man 3 when Peter Parker is doing that whole emo dance, and then all of a sudden he has a bad interaction with Mary Jane. He hits her, and it goes all serious. I'll say that scene half worked, because I remember when I saw it in the theater as a kid. I think I was about 12 at the time. I did not say, "Hey, how come that was tonally inconsistent?" I did get involved in the moment. I did feel what's the tonal shift there, but in a good way. It wasn't great. I wish it could have been handled a lot better, but it did work there, and the music that played was really good. The acting from the actors sold it. It just could have been plotted better and planned better. But here, the tonal shift was just... It was just so off. I was like, this feels like it's just a movie is very sloppy. Like I said, it feels like it's rushing to get to the end credits. 2 minutes after that song and dance number, one of the goofiest scenes in the MCU, about 2 minutes after, they all of a sudden have a big, huge Marvel fight scene with two armies at it, fighting each other. That was so dumb. And the rest of the movie from that point on was just a bunch of generic stuff that we have already seen from the MCU, and there were no stakes. Seriously. So, the story was not good. Now let's talk about the Marvels themselves, the characters in this film. Now, right off the bat, I want to talk about this character from the Marvels. Yep, Kamala Khan right here. I will say that Kamala Khan, she was actually really likable right from the start of this film. They gave her an animated sketch pad in the opening where she's fangirling out about, Captain Marvel, a superhero. It's basically taking the best way I can describe it is that it's basically taking the concept of the end credits from the first Shazam movie, which had a bunch of sketches and a bunch of funny little drawings and a funny little story being put there, and it makes a little fangirl scene out of it, is what it basically does. And I thought it was pretty creative. And Kamala, like I said, she just seems like the biggest little fangirl, and in a good way. It's like that's what they're trying to go for, and it worked. She really sold it. Although, why she is a fan of Captain Marvel, I don't know. Carol Danvers has not really done anything in the MCU that could be considered noteworthy yet, so I don't know why she's such a huge fan of Captain Marvel. But I thought that Iman Vellani did a very good job at portraying this kind of, this fangirl kind of superhero. You can tell that the actress is having a lot of fun, and that translates to the character, who is also having a lot of fun. And the joy that she has is very infectious. Really, that's why when she was even dancing to that cringy dance, I smiled at that. I was like, that's cute. That is surprisingly cute. Although she wasn't able to even save that scene afterwards. She goes, what was it? Monica Rambeau says about Carol when she's dancing. She goes, "What is she doing?" And then Miss Marvel goes, "She's going with the flow." I was like, that is such terrible, terrible dialogue. And even a little talented actress like her, even she couldn't pull it off. That just felt so forced. But I will say that I was also surprised that not only was she a very good little actress, little sidekick character, but on top of that, she was the only character who showed a lot of care towards the people they were saving. And she was even believe it or not, she was even the emotional center of the team. And she was even very caring and nurturing towards Carol and Monica. And she's supposed to be the inexperienced member of the group. When she was doing that, I was actually surprised. I was like, how the hell is this character just so... It's like she's bringing the heart to this movie. There's not much heart in this movie, but she's bringing the heart to this movie. I'll tell you guys, I honestly thought she was the best character of the three. And I will actually go as far as to say that she actually carries this whole movie. If it wasn't for her, this movie would get a 1 out of 10. But the fact that you'll notice my score will be a bit higher, it is only because of her. Otherwise, this movie would have been a complete dud. So, yeah. But then... we get to Carol and Monica. Now, Monica was a little girl in the first Captain Marvel movie, and now she is finally seeing Carol after so many years, and now that she's an adult. And the movie constantly tries to force drama between these two. Like, this image you see right here, this is a scene where the two are having, like, some kind of argument. And it's just so... I'm like, it feels like they're really trying to force drama here, but there is no drama to really delve into. It's like, this is such a simple thing that you can talk about, but they just keep dragging it on. And when you find out why she's sad that, you left, you didn't come back for me, I'm like, this is such an old, like, character, like, such an old character subplot, where you weren't there for me, and all that kind of stuff. But you're looking at it and saying, who cares? This is Captain Marvel. It was like a friend. She was not a family member. She was not a relative. So I don't know why they were making such a big deal out of that. And Sumitra Ghosh, I hope I pronounced your name right. I apologize if I didn't. Said, what's with all the cats in the movie? Oh, don't you worry. I'm going to be talking about those cats. Don't you worry. Be sure of it. I'm going to talk about those cats. But yeah, the movie constantly tries to force drama between the two, the main one being that Carol never came to meet Monica when she was little, even after her mum died. And the whole time, I just don't care about their problems. Look, you met Captain Marvel, but she had lost her memory, so she was kind of a new person to you. And after that, she had stuff to do. Her life doesn't revolve around you, Monica. But if Carol Danvers was your relative or something, then I would understand, but she's not. So I was actually thinking this about Captain Marvel. I was like, get off her back. Leave her alone. Stop giving her such a hard time. And that's me thinking that about Captain Marvel, a character I've not really liked. Also, Samurta Ghosh, I want to say thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. That's why I answered your question even during the stream right now. And to go back to what I was talking about, the feud between the two was another thing that was so rushed that it was honestly embarrassing. I swear, the explanation and forgiveness, when Carol explains why she didn't come back, and then when Monica inevitably forgives her, it was done in what felt like less than a minute. That's what I said. This movie feels like it's like in a constant rush. It was a very bad sort of like character subplot they did, but they didn't even delve into it. They just said, all right, this is why I didn't show up. There you go. I forgive you. Done. And it's like no one was even asking Carol, like, why didn't you show up? And all of a sudden, the scene gets emotional out of nowhere. And they're just talking about it. And again, I feel like it's part of the reshoots. I'm like, why is the scene all of a sudden becoming emotional? Because it wasn't emotional before this. The scene, like, literally just seconds before this, no one was showing any emotion. And now all of a sudden tears are being thrown around. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's clear that there was no inspired reason to bring these characters together, and this whole feud is proof of that. It just feels like a desperate attempt to give them character, to give them history, and a reason for being in this movie. So, yeah. I don't even know what they were thinking with that. Now, let me go find my next point here of what I want to talk about. But yeah, after seeing that whole relationship between the two, it's clear there was no reason for them to be in, for these three to basically be in a movie together, because there's no real story between them. And the chemistry between the three, at times it's okay, but once they all have a heart-to-heart, it felt like we got here way too quickly. And it honestly gave me Joss Whedon Justice League vibes, where all of a sudden the three are a team after some conversations. It felt very, again, down to the editing, down to stuff feeling like it's being cut. It really did feel like a Justice League and the original Suicide Squad in ways. I'll say the Suicide Squad movie was edited even more messy, but I got those vibes, particularly from Justice League, and that's not good. Now, what did I think of Brie Larson? Well, I will say that she had a better performance as Captain Marvel in this movie, but it still feels directionless. It feels like Brie Larson is playing a character that she doesn't understand. Every time she talks in the movie, it comes across like she's reading lines, and that's it. It doesn't feel like there is a living, breathing character in there. It's like Marvel and Brie Larson have not figured out who this character is, what her personality is like, and after all this time, she's the only Avenger that I know nothing about her personality, even after watching her in so much stuff. Honestly, guys, it's like when I was watching, I was like, they don't want Carol to hear. It's like there's things that when Carol finds out or they tell Carol something, I'm like, I don't know. Is she going to react badly to that? Is she going to be okay with that? Is she going to be what? Like, I didn't know what the character would think. That just goes to tell you that we don't know who this character is. And I feel like when watching Brie Larson's performance, it felt like even she didn't know what this character was yet. So yeah, it's just really, it's like Marvel, after spending so much time with Brie Larson here, they still haven't figured out her character. And I gotta say, I wasn't really a fan of Monica Rambeau in WandaVision. I thought she was just meh. I thought in this movie she was just somehow even worse. She just seemed like a nothing character here. Of all the three characters, I would say Monica Rambeau could be the one that you could get rid of, and you could just say the movie is about Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. So technically this should have been, I would say essentially, it should have been a Miss Marvel Season 2, maybe. And they should have just put this in here. Put those two in there. I don't know why this was made, a big expensive movie was made out of this. But of the three, Iman Vellani seems to know what her character is, but the other two are just, it feels like they're acting in the dark. Also, get this, I have a grasp of Carol and Kamala's powers, but Monica's powers just seem to do whatever they want. I was like, what even are her powers? I feel like I have to ask, because I genuinely don't know. They just seem to do whatever it is they want. And after looking into it, it seems that even other people didn't know what her powers are either. So I'm glad to know that it's not just me being the idiot here. But yeah, I don't like these Captain Marvel characters. Kamala was decent, but the other two are just so boring and uninteresting. Brie is still making constipated facial expressions when she is trying to look intense, and Monica really seemed like the pointless tag-along throughout the movie, because the majority of her dialogue is just exposition. The same with Captain Marvel too, there's a lot of exposition, and even the way the story tells some history between the characters, a lot of it is just exposition and then characters explaining stuff. It feels kind of forced. You could just tell they did not have any idea what to do with these characters, and they just forced it. That is the honest truth, guys. That's what it felt like. And then we get to our next character of discussion. Then we get to Nick Fury. Now, Samuel L. Jackson just came off of Secret Invasion, and Secret Invasion did not do well. Like, it really did not do well. The final episode I thought was such an embarrassment. If you go to my Patreon, I actually react to each and every single episode of Secret Invasion. That's the first season of my Let's Watch show on Patreon. And I react to each and every single episode, and that final episode, you just have to see my reaction, because I was constantly, just in shock of what was happening. And how much that show basically just completely dismantled his character. It was a downright bloody insult what they did to him in that show. And they really just made Nick Fury seem like a nothing character. Like, honestly, he felt like a nobody at that point. It's like, what's the point here? It's like, all this time we wanted to see Nick Fury in a movie or show, and then we got it, and I was like, yeah, I wish you didn't even bother. Because they just beat him down like they do with a lot of other male characters, and Nick Fury was constantly being talked down to, and he wasn't in his prime for some forced reason that they gave. So that just made Nick Fury seem like a boring character, and the story itself wasn't good either, and they had a $200 million budget, and it still looked like a very cheap show, like cheaper than the Netflix Marvel shows. Now, I will say about Nick Fury in this movie, he feels like a completely different character. Honestly, it seems like he could be a Skrull, because he was just acting so goofy. This Nick Fury doesn't line up with the Nick Fury that we just saw in Secret Invasion, or any of his other appearances in the MCU. Every line he says is a comedic line. Or even if he's saying something normal, it's presented as if he's saying something funny. At one point, Carol tells him about the switch, when she switched to a different location, and she doesn't know what's going on. At one point, she tells him what happened when she switched, and she goes like this with her hand. Like, so I was right here. And then he goes, scissors cuts paper. I was like, oh my god, what the hell just happened? Like, it's like he's gone crazy. But it's supposed to be the same Nick Fury that we just saw at the end of Secret Invasion. And see, at the end of Secret Invasion, he went back to the ship with his wife. But you don't see his wife here, and nor do they even talk about her either. It's like, how is this even, the MCU, is it even connecting anymore? This really makes no sense, and he doesn't even talk about her either. If you watch this, you would never have even known that he had a wife. So it's like, who's monitoring the continuity in the MCU now? it really feels like it's just all over the place at this point. It's like if you watch some people will say, yes, you need to watch this other stuff in order to understand the universe going forward. But at the same time, if you watch the stuff and then go forward with the universe, you still don't understand. You still have questions. Like, where is his wife? Are they going to answer that? Or are they just not going to bother? It's just so weird. And I gotta say, that's, as well as that being the kind of stupidity that we're dealing with here with Nick Fury, you know, scissors cuts paper. Fury essentially just sits on his butt doing nothing the entire movie. And I gotta say, I don't even know why he was here, guys. It was that pathetic. His role was that limited. It's like they put him here in this movie and in the end he did nothing. Alright, now guys, it's gonna be time to talk about the action. Now, I will say this. I know that Nia DaCosta did not direct the action. If you read interviews, the director, Nia DaCosta, actually said there were times where she was shooting things and she didn't even know what was going to happen. She said that she didn't even know what was happening as she was directing and there were marks all around and she didn't know what it meant. So, she clearly was being controlled by Marvel. They were directing the movie, not really her. And that's kind of what she said. She goes that you got to realize when you're making these Marvel movies, she said that you have to realize that you're making a Kevin Feige movie. So she made this movie, but really she was not really in control of this. And Marvel have had a history of saying that they will take over for the directing duties of the director. That's why one of the Black Widow directors left for the original Black Widow movie, because they said that don't worry, we'll handle the action sequences. You direct everything else. It's like, what? You direct the talking? That's it? It's really ridiculous. So when I watch these action sequences, I'm like, this is not really something from the directors. The Russo brothers had a say over the action sequences, but this is more something that is... And James Gunn had control over his action sequences, but this is something that is really done by committee. And a lot of the action scenes in their movies lately have been pretty bad because of that. And I will say, the action in this movie is also pretty lackluster, but there were times where the three characters use their powers and they switch places where I thought, oh, that was pretty cool actually. So when they use their powers and stuff, I thought there was some interest. There were some interesting bits with the action there. But the thing is, you just don't really care about the action because you don't care about the story or really the characters, and you especially don't care about the villain, which we will talk about right now. So I will say, the action in this, it had some good moments, but it really was just turn your brain off action. And there were times where the characters were all using their powers and they didn't switch. And that was bizarre. It's like, okay, we have to use our powers at the same time to switch. But then there's other times where they are using their powers at the same time and they don't switch. So it's very convenient. It's like they don't even stick to their own gimmick either. So, now it's time, guys, to talk about the villain. Let's talk about this villain. In fact, let me get rid of all of this stuff on screen here. And get rid of all that. And let's bring this villain in, and let's enlarge her on this screen, because I really want to talk about this villain here. Now, essentially her... Oh, Adam Grunther came to the chat. Oh, hi. Good to see you join the live stream. Now, let's get to... let's quickly just read... Adam Gunther is a long-time member of the channel. Let's quickly read this. I'm just going to say this. This isn't the worst Marvel movie. It's good, but I at least liked it more than the first Captain Marvel. I will agree with you there. I liked it better than the first Captain Marvel too. Honestly, I did like it better than some other Marvel movies, but I will say it has some of the worst Marvel scenes in it. Adam Grunther says, I at least liked Miss Marvel. I can't say I liked any other characters in the first one. Yeah, I agree. Miss Marvel, she was so adorable and so cute. I actually said in the live stream, I don't know if you caught it, I actually said, I don't usually use this word, but she was very cute. There was the cringy dance sequence where she was walking in, and that scene was painful to watch, but when she was dancing around to it, I actually thought that took the edge off a little bit of how cringy that scene was. I was like, it's funny to see how much she's like a little kid at a candy store, like a little fangirl who's having fun on this kind of stuff, because she even has some fun on stuff that she shouldn't be having fun with. So I thought that was actually pretty... I will say, I did like her character, so I don't really have any problems with her. Like I even said, she carried the movie. She's the reason why I'm giving this the movie a higher score than I would have, which I'll get to later. So yes, going back to what I was talking about. Now, this villain, I didn't even write her name down. I just put her under villain. That tells you a lot. What was it? What was her name? Was it Darben? Barden? Darben. The G Gamer says, is she as bad as people say? With the villain, I will say yes, she is as bad as people say. I think her name was Darben. And now, the reason why she is as that bad is, first of all, just the way they introduce her in the movie. She's very... They don't give her a reveal. They don't even hype her up. They literally just put the camera on her right at the beginning as if she's a nothing character. As if she's a nothing character. And they don't even... It's like they put no effort in to make her seem intimidating or anything. She just starts the movie, picks up the MacGuffin that she has, and she puts it on her wrist, and that's it. That's your opening. Then we cut to to Miss Marvel. Now, her motivation is her planet is losing its air and sun, and she wants to rectify that. And she turns to a life of villainy to do it. And Captain Marvel might be involved in that, but that was something I was confused by when I was watching. They showed a flashback of Captain Marvel destroying her city, but I feel like I was paying attention, but it's like either they talked about it, and it was so brief that I didn't hear about it, or they just didn't talk about it at all. That whole flashback sequence where they show Captain Marvel coming in and destroying stuff and attacking her people, as if she was some kind of lunatic, like she was evil Anakin Skywalker or something, I was like, okay, so what are they going to do? Are they going to... Hi, Zilla Universe. What are they going to do? Are they going to try to say that she's mind-controlled, that it was someone else that looked like her, or it was a misunderstanding? I was like, what are they going to try to say? But later on, they don't even really bring it up. They bring it up, I think, but they went through it so quickly where I was like, did they even answer it properly? I'm telling you guys, I was genuinely confused. I was like, did they just... Was that the conversation? I feel like they didn't even get into it if that was the conversation. It just felt so rushed, the motivation. It felt like an afterthought for this villain. I swear they wanted... Now, I will say this is a purely speculation on my part, but I swear they wanted to bring Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy into this movie. He made an appearance in the first Captain Marvel, and I think they wanted to bring him back in. But, much like that South Park Pandaverse episode, except it was Kevin Feige this time, it does feel like they almost said, like, put a chick in it and make her lame. Because that is basically how I would describe her character, because she does seem like a very rip-offy version of Ronan the Accuser. And you guys will know, Ronan the Accuser is not a villain that I even liked, but somehow she ended up being worse. And she's holding the hammer, which looks just like his, the purple glowing hammer, except his had an Infinity Stone in it. Hers didn't. And it had all these super strong powers, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, why didn't Thanos go for that thing instead of an Infinity Stone, which is so much more dangerous and so much more hard to come after? Oh yeah, Ronan died, says Parker, but you know what I mean. It's like Marvel they always bring characters back, so I'm sure they would have found a way. It could have been a variant or something they would have said. It could have been a version of Ronan who likes to enter multiverses and he's found his way here. Any excuse of a reason they could to bring him in, they could have, but it felt like they wanted to do a female version of him, even giving the same weapon, which was kind of lame. And it is kind of interesting how that South Park episode kind of predicted the newer Disney movies and what they're doing. That is kind of funny to me. But yeah, the villain is just a worse version of Ronan from Guardians. Like I said, she even has that purple hammer. And yeah, it still seems just as powerful and seems to work in many of the same ways. So I did find that very strange. I'm like, do they even know what her power is, really, with this? And it wasn't threatening. Like, there's one point where she puts the hammer on Kamala's head. Kind of like what Thanos did with the Infinity Gauntlet to Thor's head when he was threatening to kill Thor in front of Loki. That's what they essentially did here, but there was no tension. I did not feel scared for the characters, and I was like, look at this character, she's so lame. She's not going to do this. This movie has no balls to do something like that. I mean, it's got a freaking Disney princess dance scene in there. Do you think they're going to, like, end up hurting Kamala that much? And plus, the stakes in the MCU are really non-existent at this point. I knew she was going to be okay. And what makes it worse? I liked Kamala as a character. She's the one that I was like, if she's not in this movie, I would not be watching it. But somehow, they still made me not care when she was being in danger and when she was being hurt. And essentially, tortured for a couple seconds. Kind of like Thor, but nowhere near as bad. When it happened to Thor, it seemed painful. When it happened to her, it just didn't seem painful at all. Uh, it's just... I was watching this and I'm like, seriously, this is actually shocking how much this movie just feels like... It feels like they're deliberately trying to mess around here and try to, like, just make this character fail. And I don't understand why. Kidding Cell, who's donated $5, like I said, super chat questions, they get answered instantly. Did you hear that there are talks to bring back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans back? Yes, I did. Kevin Feige was even asked about that in an interview. I think it was Entertainment Tonight recently at the Marvel's premiere. And he goes, no. And then he goes, but... I think he said something like, we have not even talked about that. But the thing is, they very most likely have talked about it. They saw this bad box office coming because they know what the pre-sale numbers are. We didn't know what they were, but they knew. They knew this movie was not doing well. They could compare it with the analytics of their other movies and their pre-sales. So this was all them panicking. Apparently they had an emergency meeting on September, so that is one of the things they could have talked about during the emergency meeting. But yeah, like I said, this villain, not a good villain. And this bangle that she has seemed just as powerful as an Infinity Stone that Ronan was using. So as well as no continuity with the character's behaviors, such as Nick Fury, there is now no continuity between the weapons in the MCU. It's like they're either that, I will say, it's either that, or they're just recycling effects that they have used in the past. So they said a glowing purple hammer. We already have the effects ready for that, from what we used years ago. Let's just bring those in. So it could just be recycled effects. And it just so happens to look like something we're used to. So we're thinking and making those connections. But that's all part of world building. You can't just go ahead and use these old effects then if it looks similar to an old weapon that was actually a pivotal part of the story for the whole universe. It was an Infinity Stone. You can't copy and paste the Infinity Stone effect, special effect on just some nobody freak of the week kind of villain. You just can't do that. So I thought that the villain was she was a terrible villain. I would sum her up as a typical MCU villain, like not even the okay typical MCU villains, but one of the absolute worst. I will say I think she is actually one of the worst villains I've seen in the MCU. She's actually that bad. She really is, guys. She even had a forced flashback sequence where she explains why she's mad, and it was, again, another example of it being so lazily and hastily thrown together in a way that only happens when movies have no idea how to organically give the audience exposition. They just gave it by the villain saying, "Here's my sad story." It's like, who cares? If you're gonna do what you're gonna want to, if you're so convinced that you're gonna do what you're gonna do, then just do it. Captain Marvel knows what she's done to you. Apparently, going by the flashback that happened in the movie, so it's like, so why are you acting all like, let me explain to you why I'm doing this? It was just exposition done for our benefit, and it came across as painfully apparent they were trying to say, audience, this is the reason why she's evil. And I was still confused as to why she was evil. There were so many other better ways she could have gone about doing things to sort out her planet as opposed to what she did. Heck, Carol Danvers even fixes the problem with her planet later. There's the same problem happening with the sun type thing. Carol Danvers fixes it, and there was no problem afterwards. It was so weird. She was a complete nothing villain. There are countless other things that she could have done to solve her problem, but she decided to be a crap MCU villain instead. There is not a single good thing I can say about this villain, and her motivation is said so freaking quickly that you could just easily miss it. So now we're going to move on to the credit scenes. But before we do, Adam Grunther has done a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. I just want to quickly thank all of you for the super chats the last time on the last live stream. That really did help for my monthly earnings. So thank you guys very much for that. That really did help me that month. So I really do appreciate it. You guys really are like helping me keep going with this channel. So thank you very, very much. And thank you to Adam Grunther as well, who was only in the live stream for a bit last time and still donated a lot. So again, thank you all of you. I really do appreciate your generosity and your constant support. Now, Adam Grunther says, are you worried about Zaslav shelving some of the projects in James Gunn's DCU? Let me rephrase that. Are you worried about Zaslav shelving some of the projects in James Gunn's DCU with how he tried to shelve that Looney Tunes movie for a tax write-off which James Gunn himself wrote? It makes me worry. You know what? I'm going to not answer that question yet, because I actually have a lot to say about that. So I'm going to copy that, I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to answer this once we've finished the Q&A. So thank you very much for bringing that up, because that is something I actually did want to talk about. So there we go. So yes, I am going to discuss that. Alright, so let's talk now about those credit scenes. Now, there were 2 end credit scenes in the Marvels, but they did something very sneaky here. It's like they wanted to say, look, we're only doing 1 credit scene, you know, we're not trying to set up too many things, but really they just took the first credit scene, the mid-credit scene, and they attached it to the end of the movie. So there are 2 credit scenes. They can say whatever they want, they can try to make it look like whatever they want, they can change the optics however they want, but let's not kid ourselves here. Honestly, they have 2 credit scenes going on here, and both of them are setting things up for future movies. And Marvel have this trend where they keep setting things up for future movies, but the movies that they set up, the movie itself is not good, and then the movie they set up, once we finally get to that movie is not good. So them making these promises, they don't really mean anything anymore, because their track record shows that, yeah, they've made promises before, and it was never worth the wait, and it was just bad in the end. So yeah, I will say that the promises they're making here don't mean anything until we actually see what they're trying to promise us. So the first credit scene, let's just talk about that. The first credit scene, I just want to get it over with, because I know what they're trying to do. Now, the first credit scene, they strangely decide to do something a bit meta, which I found very weird. It's a scene where Kamala goes to Kate Bishop's house to recruit her for the Young Avengers, and which is basically essentially like the Teen Titans in a way, or Young Justice. And Kamala does this, tries to recruit her, and you do see Haley Steinfeld there. Kamala tries to recruit her by quoting the same lines that Nick Fury said to Stark in the credit scene for Iron Man 1. And she's like, Kate Bishop, do you really think that you're the only superhero in this world, and all that kind of stuff? And she goes, believe it or not, this world is bigger than what you think. And it's weird that she's quoting these lines, because we've got a whole universe of superheroes now. Avengers Endgame, the blip happened, everyone knows they're superheroes. She goes, do you know you're just one part of a bigger world? A world of superheroes? And I'm like, this line makes no sense. It made sense when Nick Fury said it. It makes no sense when she's saying it now, 30-something movies later. And not to mention as well, this dialogue she said, it made no sense. I liked how Kate Bishop is this little fangirl. That's why I said her character was kind of cute and adorable in that way, and very, very likable. But even when, for me, who liked that, I was like, this makes no sense, because she's quoting the lines verbatim what Nick Fury said to Stark. And my question is, how did Kamala know Nick Fury's Iron Man 1 speech? It was because it was too meta. The only people that were a part of that conversation was Tony Stark and Nick Fury. Yet she's repeating the speech like she's quoting a movie. It felt like a very meta wink at the audience. And that makes no sense to me, because Deadpool, he would do something like that, because he is a very meta character. He lives essentially in breaking the fourth wall. So he would make a joke like that. You can imagine if Deadpool came over to Wolverine, and all of a sudden, when Wolverine comes into the mansion or whatever, and all of a sudden Deadpool's just right there, turns on the lamp, and the lamp's not working, and then he's like, Wolverine, like, you know, or Hugh, whatever he wants to say. He could then try to give the Iron Man speech that Nick Fury gave. That works, because he's a very meta character. But Kamala is not a wall-breaking character. She is actually part of this world. She doesn't know she's living in a movie universe like Deadpool does. She thinks this is her universe. So she can only know what she was a witness to. So how does she know about Nick Fury's recruitment speech? It makes no sense. George Phillips says 100%, like, yeah, that's... I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that says this. Some people say, oh yeah, that was great, but I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was just... And she tries to fumble it, so they tried to play it cute, but for me, it was just too... That sort of, like, oversight in logic just took me out of the whole scene. Not to mention, they didn't even do very good with this movie, I think, and with a lot of other movies and shows that they've been doing, so why should we feel excited for a Young Avengers when we haven't even got our next Avengers yet? And the characters that they're trying to present for the next Avengers, they don't really seem like they've connected with audiences, and it's like I don't really care to see them interact. Like if Moon Knight interacts with Captain Marvel, for example, no, sorry, Captain America, you know, the new Captain America. Who cares if that's what they do? Like, I genuinely don't care if these characters meet. That's a big problem with the MCU. So, yeah, I gotta tell you guys, I do not like that credit scene. And I will say this, that Marvel, they have lost the plot. And do you know why? Do you know why they decided to actually put that in there, where she's doing this meta speech, which is basically a copy and paste of Nick Fury's speech? The answer is because it was done for a joke. Kamala does not know what Nick Fury's speech was, but they did it because we know what the speech was. So again, Marvel are sacrificing logic and common sense here just to service their jokes. So that's what that was done. That was a whole mid-credit scene that's meant to be important, but they presented it and approached it from the perspective of, let's tell some more jokes. That was not good. I don't like that they did that. But at the same time, there wasn't really any skin off my nose, because I felt like I wasn't really caring about the Young Avengers anyway. They didn't really give me a reason to care. Apart from Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan, I haven't really connected with the rest of the Young Avengers that they've presented to us. And yeah, the other Avengers that apparently we're going to get, she name drops Cassie Lang from Ant-Man 3, that Ant-Man has a daughter. I did not like her. I thought Cassie Lang from Endgame was a lot better, and the approach they took for Cassie Lang in Quantumania, I just straight out didn't like it. And then they have Ironheart they're trying to present as well as another member of the Young Avengers. Again, Riri Williams I thought was the worst part of Wakanda Forever, because I really wanted M'Baku to get more development in there, but instead they shoved Riri Williams in there just to set her up for her own MCU show, which rumor is that they might just dump it, but we'll see what happens. And bear in mind, the rest of the Young Avengers, they're all characters that we don't really like, and America Chavez from Multiverse of Madness, she was also supposed to be part of the Young Avengers, so that's actually another all-female team that they're setting up, I just realized. Because in the Young Avengers, there are supposed to be male characters in there too, like there's supposed to be, I think, a young Hulk in there and stuff. And Spider-Man was in the Young Avengers, I think, at some point in the comics, unless I'm remembering that wrong. I'm pretty certain he was. Or if it wasn't called the Young Avengers, it was another team that was essentially the Young Avengers and Spider-Man was in it. Or was it Miles Morales that was in it? But basically, yeah, they've just got a lot of... they're trying to do another female thing with this, which I wonder, actually. That's actually interesting. Given the low box office performance for this movie, do you think they're even going to go through with that? Well, Adam Grunther said it as well. There's Wanda's kids, so you get them as well. Speed and Wiccan, yeah, apparently those are supposed to be two characters. Apparently people say they are very great characters in the comics, but I gotta say, from what I've seen in the show, I don't really see it. We'll have to wait and see in the Agatha show. But again, that's being, yes, Champions, that is it, Francisco. That was the one where they came together with Miles Morales in there as well. But yeah, those kids, I feel like, given the amount of sidekicks that they've introduced, and I only like 2 of them, I don't even know if I'm gonna like Wiccan and Speed and Wiccan. I don't even know if I'm really going to like them, because there's no sense of quality control. Do you remember when the first Iron Man came out, how everyone knew who Iron Man was, but no one really cared? He was very much a D-list character in that way, and I think Marvel, they did. They somehow managed to take him and make him an A-list character. So I feel like they need to put that kind of effort into all these other characters. But they're not putting that effort in. It's like they're saying, just quickly get them out, throw them on streaming, throw them in the theaters, get them out, make a big team, say we've got this big, like, diverse team together, and then they want to keep doing pats on the back. Like, remember Moon Knight, when Moon Knight's wife turned into a superhero, which I thought looked really quite silly, and then that Egyptian girl goes, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" It's like they're really looking for those pats on the back, whereas... look how much diverse characters were in Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, that have become such fan favourites, and it didn't feel like they were looking for pats on the back. They put that effort in that Marvel put in for Iron Man and those other D-list characters. That's the effort that Spider-Verse movies are putting in for these other more obscure multiverse Spider-Man characters. But Marvel is not putting that effort in for these live-action movie characters. So that is really not a good thing. So yeah, I don't care about the Young Avengers, and I don't really think Marvel would want to do that now, given how much money they're going to have to put into it. If people do not come to see this female team, I don't know why they're going to come to see that female team, because 2 out of 3 of these team members in the Marvels are characters that made their debut in streaming shows. The rest of these MCU sidekick characters for the Young Avengers, most of them made their debuts in streaming shows, even the ones that they got coming up. And no one's going to want to go to the theatre to see that. I think that is like a streaming-only show, and even then, I think the numbers would be very limited, to be honest with you. So, that was the first credit scene. Now it's time to move on to what you've all been waiting for. Now it's time to move on to the second end credit scene. And I've actually got a picture here for that. There you go. So yes, Beast apparently made an appearance in the credit scene. And I will say, it was a very odd credit scene too. It also felt very weird. It kind of reminded me a bit of... I'll just quickly say that before I talk about the scene, the editing of it reminded me a little bit of that credit scene in Morbius, where Michael Keaton's Vulture and Jared Leto's Morbius were both talking. And you could tell it was a completely different conversation the two were having, that they just tried to stitch together in editing, and it didn't make sense. I feel like that kind of happened with this credit scene too. But we'll talk more about that later. Let's describe the scene. Now, the scene actually leaked online on social media, and I actually saw it before I went to go see this movie, because I thought, let's just get this over with. I didn't even think I was going to see the movie at first. And yeah, so basically it's a scene of Monica Rambeau waking up in a blue room where she meets a multiverse variant of her mother. Although Monica doesn't know this at first, and she is in shock that she sees her mother is alive. And I gotta say, was I the only one who thought this? Because a lot of you have seen this. I'm sure a lot of you must have seen this on social media as well, that credit scene, even if you did not go see the movie in theaters. But was it just me, or did you find the acting from Monica when she sees her mother to be very over the top and even quite laughable? Because she's kind of crying and in shock. And I thought her acting before was just meh, like it wasn't anything special, but nothing I could really break down and say, oh, bad acting. But her acting here was so bad, and it was so over the top, it actually made me laugh. And that is not the reaction that this scene wanted to get, but it's the reaction that I got. I kind of like had a big laugh on my face. I was like, that is just such a weird reaction to seeing your loved ones. You're supposed to feel teary-eyed, but I didn't feel teary-eyed. It was just weird. Like, did she even have much time to prepare? Was this such a last-minute reshoot, which that's what the rumor is, that she didn't get time to really, like, prep for the scene? She just had to quickly say it, and then they just stitched her performance together in editing or something. Adam Grunther says, I didn't even like this post-credit scene, but I can't in good conscience call it worse than the Morbius scene. It's not worse than the Morbius scene, but when they're talking to Beast and the stuff he says, like when she goes, does she know anything? And then he goes, knowing is the path to knowledge. The way he said that, it just didn't feel like... It felt like a very stiff response, almost like you were talking to AI, is what it sounded like. Which I wouldn't be surprised if that scene was written with AI, although it shouldn't be. But the way the dialogue was said, it just seemed very... I don't know if it was the way it was directed, or the way it was shot, or written, or all three, but it just seemed artificial to me. I do think that scene was somehow shot, written with artificial intelligence. I do think that's what they did. It's so weird. But anyway, going back to the scene, her acting I thought was over the top, and it was not the reaction that I wanted her to have. It should have been a better acting performance. But then Beast from X-Men The Last Stand shows up, and they brought back Kelsey Grammer to play him, and he was redesigned and full of CGI. Now, there were good elements to his CGI, but when I saw it, I was like, ew. Like, there's something stiff about his animation, and with the way he was talking. When he walked at times, it was okay, but when you saw him close up, it didn't look right. And if you look at the previous movies, Beast was always done, both in X-Men The Last Stand and X-Men Days of Future Past. He was done with practical effects. It was only X-Men First Class where he was done with CGI, and it looked really bad. I didn't like the look of it in there. But even that, I feel like looked better than this. It feels like this was also just done so quick. It just felt like there was a disconnect when I was looking at it. He was redesigned to look more like the 90s animated show. But that's where I'm starting to ask the question, why are they trying to model everything after that 90s show? Because I watched that 90s show when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it. But it was so far back in my memory now that I feel like these characters have been reinvented in so many good ways. I would rather go for those ways So Beast and X-Men: The Last Stand, if you recreate that, I'd be fine with that. But for some reason did not do that. They just did it CGI, and it just seemed off, guys. It really did. And it's typical MCU fashion that they decide to use CGI. It was just so wonky, and the dialogue in the scene felt very unnatural and scripted, almost like the actors were not in the same room together when they shot it. And I wouldn't put it past Marvel if that's exactly what happened, because they're known for doing that. And I gotta say, I honestly feel that the MCU teasing the X-Men again, it's just too little too late at this point, guys. I mean, with that, I can't say it on the stream in case YouTube flags it. They don't seem to like that word, but apparently that joke that Quicksilver, that not Quicksilver made in WandaVision, that owner joke in WandaVision, and seeing a news article about Wolverine in She-Hulk, and the crappy version of Charles Xavier in Multiverse of Madness, I honestly just don't care about seeing the X-Men in the MCU anymore, and I don't trust Kevin Feige and these MCU writers to do any of this right. Which is funny, because a lot of people at the time had trust in them, but now they just don't. If anything, I just want them to stay away from the X-Men, because they will most likely just make a mockery of them. Adam Grunther says that 90s show is without question the most beloved thing from the X-Men. The fans... Oh, there we go. The fans go nuts for it. That's fair enough, but I feel like most people now have been exposed to the Fox movies. So most people have been exposed to those. So they're going to want to... A lot of people will want to kind of like see the characters through those lenses, if you know what I mean. So a lot of people do watch the animated shows too. I'm not having any doubt about that. But I don't think a lot of people have a problem if they did decide to just go with modeling them after the Fox movies. Because apparently, if Marvel want to say transition to their version of the X-Men and make them look like the animated series version, I totally get that. But it is weird to me when they take the X-Men characters that we already know and morph them. With others, it's okay. Like Wolverine, when you see in that leaked Deadpool photo, well, not leaked, they put it out there themselves. That Deadpool photo, he's got the X-Men costume on. That makes sense. But when you see Xavier with his cartoon, that alternate Xavier with his cartoon wheelchair, I was like, that looks... I get the reference, but it doesn't look as cool as what you has had before in the other movies. And also, changing Beast, his structure, was also weird. Unless this is a different Beast and not the one that is in X-Men The Last Stand. In which case, I feel like they're just teasing us again, Marvel. It's like, I'm kind of tired of that now. And I gotta say, guys, that it's like, if you're going to show us the X-Men, this is what also rubbed me the wrong way and kind of got me annoyed the more I thought about it. If you're finally showing us the X-Men, who the heck wants Monica Rambeau to be the first of the Avengers to interact with them? That's so lame. It's like, seriously, Marvel, of all the times you could have introduced the X-Men, this is how you want it to go down in history, that this is where the X-Men made their proper debut. Because apparently this is meant to tie into Deadpool 3, but I would have just taken Deadpool 3. Deadpool can give us a narration. He could say, previously on Deadpool, or something like that. He can turn his narration or his exposition, present it in a joke that is so funny, because he is a fourth wall breaking character. He can tell us, alright, it's been a long time, a lot of things have happened, a lot of people have been bought out, a lot of this, that. He can say, meaning Disney bought out Fox, a lot of movies failed, or whatever. There's so many things he can do. So I don't know why they had to try to like tease the X-Men in this credit scene. Just put that trailer out, which will probably explain some things. People will just go see the movie and they'll find out. So yeah, I do think that it just felt, honestly, guys, the rumors are that this is a very last minute end credit scene that they included. Because a lot of scoopers just like instantly got it like a few days before the movie came out. They're like, oh, there's a new credit scene coming to the movie. And I was like, how? The actor strike is on. They can't just film everyone. And I was like, oh, they got these characters, and that's why it's CGI, and that's why it looks like a mishmash. But I wonder if they actually did shoot the scene during the strike, because it feels so last second and so reactionary to what was going on that I feel like it's something that they must have shot this last second, mustn't they? They would have got in trouble if they were caught, but I feel like they just thought, we need something in there that can make people excited for what's coming down the line, because right now we've got nothing. And I feel like that's why they just shot that and last second threw it in. And Yeah, I gotta say, guys, this credit scene was just so bad. And it felt like it was only here to make people excited for the next MCU project because Marvel and Kevin Feige knew that audiences would not be satisfied with this movie. And this credit scene, still did not help the very poor box office that predictions that this movie had. So the credit scene felt more like a desperate marketing move than anything else. So I thought both of the credit scenes in this movie sucked. That's my stance on it. Ethan's Drawings says, back then, I've always wanted a Young Avengers versus Kang movie, but the way they're setting them up is making me care less about the MCU from now on. Yeah, and I don't blame you, because they've introduced a lot of the Young Avengers members, like Cassie Lang is, again, being one of them, Riri Williams. No one seems to care. And let's just say, for argument's sake, if you cared. It's like, if you care, that's great. But the general audience does not care. The same general audience that did care when Iron Man was introduced, when Captain America was introduced, when Thor was introduced, when Black Panther was introduced, when all these side characters were introduced, everyone cared as if these were like A-level superheroes. Even characters like Guardians was a big shock. The media outlets and everyone thought it was going to suck, the movie, that it was going to be Marvel's first big, huge bomb. But it wasn't. They had a talent of caring about these characters at the time and saying, we're going to put our best foot forward. But if you look at what they're doing now, it's like they don't care. They're just saying, quickly get them out, quickly get them out. We need this diverse character. We need this diverse character. It feels almost like they're collecting Pokemon, Marvel. They're trying to say, we got to catch them all and basically say to people, look how good we're being. But I think no one cares anymore. I think even the industry, the journalists and articles that have always tried to cover for Marvel, even they're noticing this is no good. Because Marvel are just trying too hard to do this now, to the point that even that Variety article that came out even said that one of the scripts for Blade had relegated him to fourth lead, and the first 3 characters were women. And they were also giving life lessons throughout the movie, which I'm assuming most of them would have been sent towards Blade. And Mahershala Ali was mad and basically said no. And that's one of the reasons why they said he's so close to leaving the project. So they're getting new writers now. They got the writer for Logan, so I hope, if they get off his case, let him have the time to write the script and stop trying to control him every other second. I could imagine he could write a good script. But they're not going to do a good job if Marvel keep breathing down these writers' necks and keep saying, get the script out quick. Because I feel like that's the problem for the Marvels. I feel like they tried to get the script out so quickly that no one has checked the quality control of it. And the quality control is just a load of crap, is what we're essentially getting. By the way, Ethan's Drawings, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, all your donations really do go towards helping keep this show going, because it has been a bit of a struggle lately. So thank you very much for your donations. I really do appreciate it. And the Blade reboot, Parker CS says, Blade reboot was also originally going to be PG-13. Yes, it was. They say it's going to be rated R, but apparently Marvel themselves have not officially come out and said it yet. The director said it. And there are a lot of directors that have said things. There are directors that have, even on Disney, have said, yeah, we're going to be making this Star Wars movie. Even Kevin Feige was going to make a Star Wars movie. But even he's not going to do it now. In that awkward Entertainment Tonight interview, he just says, no. Like he's not getting the Star Wars movie anymore. So, yeah. In addition to the nonsensical meta humor of the credit scene, there are countless other jokes that make no sense too. For example, Kamala's mother actually beats up one of the Kree. Like, her and her family, they're fighting the Kree members. And I'm like, it doesn't work. But the fact it worked as much as it did when they were fighting them, to me, was so weird. Because the Kree are meant to be like these warriors. And they're just playing slapstick comedy with Kamala's family in the movie, fighting them at one point. And this is the first action scene of the movie. That was just so bad, guys, really. The jokes have just gotten to an insane level here. Like I said to you earlier, the jokes come first in the MCU. Logic, plot, character, world building, it all comes last. And this movie cements that the MCU couldn't care less about anything but giving the jokes the spotlight. So, let's just conclude all of this, guys. The Marvels in general. So, let's put it this way. I didn't like the story. I didn't like the characters, except for Kamala, who was decent. I don't like the villain. And at that point, nothing else matters. It has action that is generic with some creative elements to it, but without a good story, good characters, or a good villain, you can't get invested in a movie. And this film is also just a complete jumbled mess. When you're watching, you can spot where some of the reshoots are, and when they're trying to like connect it with the old shoots from the movie with the reshoots. You can just tell where they're connected. It's just constantly like I was able to notice that when I was watching the movie. And as soon as we got to that song Planet, I was done. I wanted out. And this just further shows that the MCU formula is a dead one. This scene, let's bring it back up. This scene was... Give me a second. This scene was only in here because they wanted to force a scene in here that was goofy and funny. And it was just a damn disgrace. My guess is that when this movie was being planned, 5 years ago, according to Kevin Feige at least, he thought that the MCU would still be in a stable place where people would watch anything they make. Like, we could literally crap something out, and we are so hot people will eat it. That's what I think he thought. So he thought he could just coast by with the MCU's goodwill, and boy was he wrong. I don't think Kevin Feige realized just how bad the reputation and the status and just the state of things in general would have become at Marvel. He did not see it coming, and that's exactly what ultimately I feel like is his downfall. He didn't see it coming, and now he still decided to coast by with this movie as if they were still the hottest shit in town. And just take a look at what happened. They've gotten in such a big problem. This movie single-handedly made Kevin Feige push back even more things further, like the Captain America: The Brave New World movie. And this movie is said to be one of the MCU's biggest flop in their history. And all of this media attention has forced Kevin Feige to delay his other movies from 2024 to 2025. So at the moment, we only have Deadpool 3 releasing in 2024. And hopefully that movie is being guided by Ryan Reynolds and even Hugh Jackman, and not Kevin Feige or the MCU. I hope Marvel don't look at this and say, you know what, we need to come in and we need to fix things. So, Ryan, we're going to control your movie and we're going to tell you what to do. Go reshoot this. Or, oh, you're still shooting? Okay, go shoot this and this. I hope Ryan Reynolds, because he is a very savvy businessman, and I fully think that he is the one behind Deadpool 3 getting the R rating. That's why Once Upon a Deadpool, the PG-13 Deadpool, was released so he could do a bet, I'm guessing, with Disney. And turns out he won the bet. So I think that's why the movie was rated R very early on, and Marvel announced it early because he told them, announce it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be in it. Oh, and I got Hugh Jackman, so he's going to be in it too. You still don't want to greenlight that R-rated movie? Alright, fine, we'll greenlight it. We'll make it rated R. And I think Marvel are glad they did now, because with all these flops that are coming out and the bad reputation, I am very certain Marvel are thinking, oh, at least that Deadpool movie is gonna be rated R, which is what more people want. And more superhero content is going towards. The Boys, Invincible, just the better response from fans from Echo. I think Marvel are realizing that the R rating actually has more merit to it than they originally gave it credit for. And because they're in a very tight situation, that annoys me to no end, that they are only making these movies rated R now, including Blade, if they go through with it, because they are in a very tight spot. Otherwise, they would have still tried to just coast by with that PG-13 rating. Adam Grunther, another super chat. Thank you very much. Like I said, these super chats really are going to help me out. So let's see. What do you say? It's kind of sad that despite the state of the MCU, they're still going to have the best Fantastic Four movie because the bar is so low for those characters. You know what? It's good that you bring up the Fantastic Four because I gotta be honest, the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, I like them. I was a kid when they came out. I was only 9 or 10 when I saw the first movie in theaters, so of course I would like it. So I've got nostalgia to it. But I'll tell you why I like it. I like the music that the Fantastic Four have in that movie. I think that's a fantastic theme they have. Like, I really do think it's a phenomenal theme that they have. Iconic to me. Not as iconic as some others, but it's a great theme. I like the way the movies looked. And I also think that they did a very good job with the casting. I mean, Chris Evans back in the day, he was known as playing those kind of playboy characters, and he was perfect casting for that. And Jessica Alba, I thought was really good as Sue Storm. I thought The Thing was really good. I thought they could have done a better job with his design, but I didn't think his design was that bad either. Sometimes it looked a bit faker than other times, but I was like, ultimately I liked it. And Reed, Mr. Fantastic, I love the actor they got to play him too. Whenever I think of the Mr. Fantastic or any of the Fantastic Four characters, I think back to that original movie. And I like them. I know they're not great movies, I know they're not good movies, but compare those movies there, what we considered bad movies back then, to the Marvel movies that we're getting now. Like, people said they hate X-Men The Last Stand, but do you really hate it when compared to what Marvel are coming out with now? Because they're coming out with stuff now, like Thor Love and Thunder and the Marvels, which is far worse than those movies. Those movies scream quality in comparison, because at least there is a plot. At least there are characters you care about. At least the action felt like it was directed by a director who had his own style with the action. The cinematography had its own style. The director's style had its own style. The visuals had its own style. The music felt like it was very distinct in each film, and it was iconic in its own way. You just don't get that with the Marvel movies now, because even the soundtrack in the Marvels was nothing to me. And yes, oh no, I forgot to add a image here for something that we were going to talk about. There was another thing, I'll just add it right now. There was another thing that the Marvels did which absolutely got on my damn nerves when I was watching it. I was like, this is so freaking stupid what they've done. Alright, I've got it here. I'll show it to you in a second. But in answer to your question, Adam Grunther, that is sad. But I gotta say, I kind of disagree, because I think there are some movies that could be better than what Marvel will do. They'll have a Fantastic Four, but who's to say they're gonna be good? Will it just be another joke fest? Will they be allowed to organically make the characters do things? Or will they just say Reed is just like Mr. Fantastic, for example? He's supposed to be a character that's a bit of a douche. Now, are they going to do that in a way that feels natural and organic, or are they going to try to make him a bit of an a-hole character, like just because he's just a toxic male? Because there's a style to where you make a character organically an a-hole, kind of like Tony Stark. I used to hate him a lot, and I used to hate him a lot for what he did, like in Civil War, but they organically got you there. They didn't just say he's evil because he's a guy or he's a rich dude. They organically got you there, that Tony is this kind of like an idiot, and he doesn't think things through, and he later on has to deal with those consequences. But the movie developed him some to get him there, and it was natural when he made those silly decisions, and when he was being a bit of an a-hole. But Marvel nowadays, when they want to try making characters a-holes, it doesn't feel natural when they get there. It feels like they're just a-holes just because they are a-holes. Like when Nick Fury was being an a-hole to Talos in Secret Invasion, I was like, this feels too cruel for Nick Fury. I was actually against Nick Fury there, not because the character was doing it, but because he was being a bit of an a-hole to Talos when Talos left. It just felt like they're trying to make these characters seem bad, but not organically. Like, even if you watch Hulk in She-Hulk, I did not like what they did to Bruce Banner in that show either. So there's a lot of examples of Marvel not doing it well, so who knows, maybe. Normally, I would agree with you, normally if we go back several years ago, that the MCU Fantastic Four will be better, but given what we've got, the kind of quality garbage we've been getting lately, I think anything's on the table now in terms of bad quality, because I thoroughly believe this. I've said that Marvel, the MCU, they have everything to prove right now. They don't get by on any more goodwill from me. They have everything to prove. So that's my stance on it. Let me know if you agree or disagree. We could continue talking about that. In the meantime, I'm going to mention the other thing that I forgot to mention, but I wanted to mention about the Marvels, which was so bad. And that is the cats. Now, I don't know who it was, but one of you says that you're thinking of watching the movie because you're a cat person and the cats are what's selling you on the movie. If that's the case, by all means, enjoy that. I did not like Goose the cat, though, in the first Captain Marvel, because in The Winter Soldier, when Nick Fury was having a conversation and an argument with Captain America, and Captain America normally doesn't have arguments, he's normally very diplomatic, but they had an argument, and Nick Fury, he goes that, soldiers trust people, and then Nick Fury says, the last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. And it was like this very somber, quiet moment that gave you a bit of history for the MCU, and for Nick Fury's character, that I never initially thought of. I thought he lost that eye in a fight or something, like when he was fighting an alien or some sort of like Marvel threat, or when he had a mission. I didn't know his own person, like, betrayed him to scratch his eye or take his eye out. But then you find out in the Marvels, the Russo brothers clearly did not want this. But in the Marvels, they said, oh no, it was a cat that did it. Because like I said, I told you this. Story, characters, the joke comes first above all of those. So, it was ridiculous. So seeing that we had even more cats here, it was my worst nightmare. It was so not what I wanted to see right now. Like, really, it wasn't. I actually got annoyed when they did that. I was like, seriously? Are you bringing the cat back after the bad reputation, the bad reception you got from the cat in the first movie? But the cat is there throughout the whole freaking thing, and it's so stupid. And there's one scene with the cats where they have to suck everyone in, and I was like, I don't know, this just seems so corny, goofy. And not only that, but it just seems silly. The word is silly. I was like, what am I watching right now? This is so silly. And they're playing, what made it really silly is that they played the Cats music from the musical Cats. And it was the Memories song that was in the Cats trailer for the recent, Uncanny Valley Cats. They had that music play throughout the whole scene. And man, was it painful to sit through. I was like, this scene is supposed to be funny. And I didn't, again, guys, I really did not like it. I really, 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 really did not like it. At that point, like I said, I was even zoned out. So, yeah, the cats, I did not like in this movie. My throat is killing me. Yeah, so basically, that is ultimately the last I have to say about the film. Now, the reason I put those questions in the thumbnail about, is the MCU over and your worst MCU film, is because after watching this, how can those questions not be on your mind when it comes to Marvel? How can a question not be, is this the end of Marvel? Because I actually think movies like this, Thor: Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, Ant-Man, the Wasp: Quantumania, and so on, will actually impact movies that people would like to see from the MCU, such as Deadpool 3. I was thinking after this, and if Echo bombs, which Echo apparently I've heard is a show that got reshot twice and Marvel were not confident with it. So I'm making this assumption that they just did some CGI blood and just some reshoots just to quickly R it up in a very lazy way. And the reason why is because they know that that's a show that has not got any appeal. So how could it have an appeal? Oh, we made it rated R. Because remember, Daredevil Born Again, before they cancelled it, that was going to be a PG-13 show. So why would they make Echo R-rated, but then Daredevil with the 18 episodes PG-13? They were both going to be PG-13. I think the only reason they made it rated R is just at the end, because they knew that the show had no appeal to it. So how can we get people to come in and watch it and talk about it? Make it rated R. So that's the only reason I think they did it. But yeah, is this drop in quality going to make just the general audience now? Because look at that box office number of the Marvels. $45 million domestic gross. Domestic box office. That is 10 million less than what The Flash did. And this movie was tracking to be trailing The Flash just by a bit. And The Flash had a terrible opening box office. But this is even worse. And it's not a DC movie doing it even worse. It's an MCU movie doing even worse. So that tells you what state that Marvel are in right now. And this character was in Endgame as well, and teased at the end of Infinity War, and it still couldn't bring in anyone. Just goes to show that no one was interested in the Captain Marvel movie. They were interested in that cliffhanger, that tease, that credit scene in Infinity War. They thought Captain Marvel was such an important movie, especially because it was coming out 1 month before Endgame. They thought we had to see it. But yeah, I do wonder if this is going to impact Marvel's reputation going forward, and if people will actually say, I'm not going to watch Deadpool 3 because it's from the MCU. It really makes me wonder that. The same with like Avengers Secret Wars and stuff, and the Kang Dynasty. So yeah, I did not like this movie. But I will say, what saved it was Kamala Khan. I genuinely thought that she made the movie a little bit more tolerable to watch. Because otherwise, I can tell you guys, this movie would have gotten probably like a 1 or a 2 out of 10 from me. But because of Kamala Khan, I've been struggling between these two ratings. I was either a low 4 or a high 3. And I'm right in the middle of that. Like, I would, honestly, if I gave a decimal point system, I would say it's a 3.5 out of 10. But I don't do 3 decimal point reviews. I just pick one number over the other. So yeah, I'll say this movie was a 3 out of 10. A high 3 out of 10. Not a good movie. Was it better than the first Marvel movie? The first Captain Marvel? Yes, it was. But the first Captain Marvel, I've not seen it again since I saw it the first time in theaters. But I have seen clips of it because I remember my parents saw it at home. And I remember thinking, just seems more boring the second time. The movie didn't really have anything I didn't really have anything going for it. And when you see what this whole Skrulls thing led to with Secret Invasion, now it has even less going for it. Remember what I said? A sequel can either make the previous movie better or worse. In the case of the Star Wars sequel movies, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, it made The Force Awakens even worse for me, so I give it a very low score now. And that's what happened with the Captain Marvel movie. It was like a 5 out of 10, but I ultimately gave it a lower score. And I feel like, yeah, it's the Secret Invasion made that an even lower score. And the Skrulls make a reappearance here. They reprise themselves here, but just different versions, different Skrulls. And I didn't really care about them either. And something quite bad happens to them, and the movie just quickly moves on and cuts to jokes very quickly, right after all of these Skrulls die. So, again, there's a real problem when it comes to the tonal consistency of these Marvel movies, and it really is something that they're suffering from. It's like a disease at this point. So yeah, Kamala Khan, I think, was the only real good thing about this movie. The rest of it wasn't good. And those box office numbers, they're just going to continue to disappoint, because a week from now, we're going to get the upcoming Hunger Games movie coming out, which has an actress in there that is also not doing so well right now. Why is her name escaping me? I had her name in my head. I've told you guys, my brain is really just pathetic lately. Rachel Zegler. There we go. Yeah, Rachel Zegler's in the movie. She's not doing so well, so I wonder what that's going to do. I do genuinely wonder, because I do think the movie does look interesting. But would I go to see it in theaters? Honestly, I'm a bit exhausted to keep going to theaters lately. It just doesn't feel worth the trip anymore. I think I'd rather just wait, watch stuff I need to watch at home that I still need to catch up on, and then watch that new Hunger Games movie at home. Yeah, thanks guys for George and Spirit Hero for letting me know as Rachel Zegler. I don't know why on live stream her name just lost me, because I'm always aware of her name. It's such a simple name, but for some reason I lost it here. So yeah, have any of you guys got any questions now? Be sure to post your questions below, and I'm going to answer Adam Grunther's super chat after we've done a few questions. I don't know if Adam Grunther is still here. I hope you are, because I'm going to answer your question. Rashed Owen says, why is Captain Marvel so boring? I made a Versus video on that, so go check that out. I've made 2 Versus videos. It just was a very dull movie to me. A lot of questions are coming in now. So, since we now have 3 Spider-Mans, this is from Jacob, I actually want a Venom movie where Tom Hardy meets Topher Grace. My brother said something like that once, and I swear he was doing it to mess with me. I can't remember if he really wanted it. I don't really care about that personally. I just don't really care to see that. I would rather have a brand new Venom that actually is good, personally. Like, Venom was very good in the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game. I wish they can just give us another Venom that's good. She killed it in West Side Story, though, says George Phillips. I'm sure Rachel Zegler was good in that movie, but lots of people, myself included, did not see it. Zilla Universe says, hey Eric, on Twitter a lot of people, mainly MCU stans, are coping over this movie box office failure by blaming it on men. Yeah, you cannot blame it on men with this box office failure, because what I just said to you about the dance sequence, the Disney musical dance sequence with the Cinderella dress and everything, you cannot look at that scene and say, why did men not show up to this movie? If anything, the men not showing up to the movie, I'll say to you right now, after having seen the movie, you dodged a bullet. I would have felt like a damn fool if I went and had gone seen that movie, given what I don't like about the MCU, and then come out and said, I would have felt like a fool. So the only reason I said I watched it was because of you guys. I was going to do a review for you guys. But if I wasn't, I would not have even watched this movie. And yeah, it was not a good film. So yeah, they can try to do that all they want, but it's not true at the end of the day. I mean, look what happened to Barbie recently. Guys and women went to go see that film. So clearly there is the right way you do that kind of movie, and there's the wrong way. And this movie, if you look at it's they actually can't even say that too. That men are toxic. That's why the movie didn't do well, because in the opening weekend, it was reported that 65% of the viewership were men. So only 35% of the viewership were women. So that argument is mute. You're always going to get some people that are like, just hate men just for the sake of hating men. But come on, that's not the case with every single project. If you start insulting people on one side, then of course the other side are going to start to become vocal too. If they were not being toxic in how vocal they were, just trying to say, you're a toxic male if you don't even watch this movie, if you don't even like this movie, because it got to that crazy level, then what do you expect? If you keep insulting someone, they're going to then start responding back. If you said, alright, that's alright, if you want to watch it, you can watch it, if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. That's what I always normally say with a lot of stuff. And I feel like that's just the more diplomatic and just the fairer solution, rather than saying, well, if you don't even watch the trailer, then it just means you're just toxic. Like, remember what happened with Joker? Where they were saying if you even like the trailer, if you even look forward to seeing this movie, it means you're toxic. And you're what do they call it? You're an incel, and you're a man baby, and you're a toxic male. And yeah, so I just try to stay off social media, because social media at the end of the day, they talk a big game, but it's not true whatever they want to do. So if they say, look, social media was very vocal about supporting the Marvels. So I was thinking that, okay, if anyone's going to watch it, it'll be them. And in the end, look at these numbers. Look at the demographic of people that went, male versus female. Like I said, 65% male, and it was 35% female. The numbers right there say more men went, so social media does not drive the actual conversation in reality. Hey Eric, what do you think of Loki Season 2, says CJP Productions. I've not seen Loki Season 2, so I've not even seen Loki Season 1. So yeah, I haven't seen that. I've heard that he said that I have heard that Tom Hiddleston has said he's not going to come back as Loki, that this is basically the end, but we'll see if Marvel bring him back. What if Monster House was rated R, says Jacob. That sounds pretty good, but I don't really think we needed that. George Phillips, how was your Steam Deck treating you, and what version did you get? I have my Steam Deck right here. It's the original one, although I got it a few months after it came out. It's the 64GB version, this is, but I opened it up and put in a 1TB SSD into this, and I've also got, I think, a 512GB micro SD card, so I've got 1.5TB on this baby, so it's cool. They did announce the OLED version. I really want the OLED version, but it ultimately plays the same games. And yeah, so I don't need to get that. I'll get the Steam Deck 2 when they do a proper upgrade with the specs and everything, then I'll go for that. So yeah, and I am planning to cover my Steam Deck on Patreon in the future, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Zilla Universe says, unfortunately, Stephen King is also one of those people coping over its failure too by also blaming men for not seeing it. Stephen King? What does he have to say about comic book movies? That doesn't seem like his area. And if he wants to blame men about it, I don't know if he actually believes that, or if he's actually just following a trend. Because I feel like some people just want to stay out of public scrutiny, and they think, oh, let's just follow this trend, what that current hashtag is. But whatever. Thing is, this is where you start getting to some hard truths. When you get to movies like this and Barbie, you start to see there's execution matters, and people don't like it when the selling point is just women. If you look at the trailers for the Marvels, there was nothing there bringing people in. People were not interested in this movie. And the final trailer showed that even Marvel knew they had nothing to advertise this movie with. Because the final trailer was trying to advertise the movie with everything but the Marvels. And even trying to hit you with some of that nostalgia. So yeah, now, I don't know if Adam Grunther is here. Adam Grunther, if you're here, let me know in the comments. I'll wait for about 30 seconds, because I'm about to answer your super chat about David Zaslav. Aaron Thorne says, will you do a versus video of the Raid 1 and 2? I don't think so. I mean, if there's a Raid 3 movie coming out, then possibly, but there doesn't seem to be, and I think that's kind of a movie that I can do down the line, but right now it's not something that's trending per se. But yeah, I do think this the second movie is the better movie, because the first movie was trying to be just a straight-up action film, because they were trying to prove themselves. The director had to prove himself that he could make a good movie the first time, and then he could make the movie that he really wanted, which was the second film. So, yeah. Theo Harris, who has done a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat. Again, like I said to you guys, the more super chats, the more it really does help me out. So thank you very much for that. And Theo Harris says, do you think part of why Marvel is losing its audience is because they're getting more and more childish? Yes, I do think that is exactly why. Because if you look at the contrast of what's going on with other superhero properties out there, like high flash edits, it's okay. Well, still, the review is over, but you can watch it after the fact. But stick around, because we're talking now. It's time to do super chats. It's time to do questions times. And we're going to start, getting into separate conversations and talk about the Marvels. But yeah, I do think, Theo Harris, in answer to your question, if Marvel is losing its audience because it's getting more and more childish, yes. If you look at the competition, whether it's the Batman, whether it was the Suicide Squad or the Peacemaker show, or the Penguin show coming out, or Invincible, that's a huge hit, or The Boys, that is a smash hit, Gen V, which was also really good and also a smash hit. A lot of these superhero properties are aging themselves up, and they're getting more and more mature. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, the better MCU movie, was much more mature. So, and if you look at Joker, also was very mature as well. It was a rated R. So Marvel, and the Batman was PG-13, but they treated their PG-13 rating with a lot of respect, and they really pushed it as much as they could, and they treated the story as an adult story. Marvel are not doing that, and what they fail to understand, and I don't know why they do this, is that they say since 2008 we've been making movies, so it's about 15 years. I think it's 16, 17 actually we're approaching. So, you're basically 15 years we've been making Marvel movies, and that means that they said our audience has grown with us, and that's true. They've grown 15 years now, so they're more mature. They want more old, mature storytelling. That's your audience. But that audience is leaving you because Marvel are now trying to cater towards a young audience in the modern day, a new audience, a new young audience. So they're kind of kicking everyone else off to the wayside and saying, we want these people, but no, we also want you too. But you can't get both that way. Not to mention, you're putting off audiences that have been with you for so many years because they are getting just bored of this and tired of this really childish form of storytelling, and they're just dropping off. But the child audience, they won't be able to watch this because they won't understand, because they will have to have seen all the previous stuff that came before. So yeah, I do think that they really are losing their touch. So yeah, you need more mature storytelling. You really do. And they are not giving us that. And that's why I think now they're going to try. But we'll see what they do to fix it. But I think they should just get rid of the whole jokey MCU thing. I'm done with that. I think a lot of people are too. Flash Edit says, will you watch the Marvels? And you're still spamming 3 times, which I gave you permission to do, and not doing it more. Thank you for that. I already have watched the Marvels. That's why this was a spoiler review. So I've already reviewed the whole thing too. And now Adam Grunther seems to have left. He doesn't seem to be here. But I'll answer his super chat anyway and hope that he sees this right here. So Adam Grunther basically said, are you worried about Zaslav shelving some of the projects in James Gunn's DCU with how he tried to shelve that Looney Tunes movie for a tax write-off, which James Gunn himself wrote? It makes me worry. Yes. That to me was a shock. For those of you that don't know, David Zaslav, just like how he shelved Batgirl for a tax write-off, he also shelved another movie recently called it was Coyote versus something. Let's see. Let me have a look. What was the movie that he shelved? Where is the news? Where is... There you go. Coyote versus Acme. The movie was called Coyote versus Acme, where it was basically a story, a live-action movie that was mixed with animation, where it was basically Wile E. Coyote suing Acme because their products don't work. When he tries to get the Roadrunner, the movie was about him suing them. And apparently John Cena was supposed to be in that movie too. And this was a movie that James Gunn had also co-wrote, from what I heard. And he wants to basically make a movie surrounding that. And James Gunn has produced it. So this is his baby. It's his movie. And David Zaslav, basically, the movie was practically done, getting very good test screenings, but the movie was shelved, just like Batgirl, just so he could get a $30 million tax write-off, even though the movie itself cost about $70 million. So yeah, that was a dumb decision, and I hate that David Zaslav did that. Because the idea is really funny, and if you mix it with James Gunn, it could be something cool. That would actually be something that I really want to see. If you told me that, I would say that's one of my highest, most anticipated movies of the year. But they just shelved it. I really hope that these movies, I don't know, this is all coming from David Zaslav, and he's doing this. I really hope they find a way to leak that movie so people can see it. I want that movie leaked. I want to see that movie. The fact they did that is bloody ridiculous. So yeah, that's the situation. And I think, yes, that made me really... I didn't like David Zaslav before, but I could see why he did certain things, like with DC, and like why he shelved Batgirl. If anything, I think Marvel should shelve some of their projects coming up, because I don't think they can take any more failures. But this is one where I did not understand what he did, why he did what he did. How tight could you get? So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Jake D. Brune, thank you very much for the $7 super chat. Again, I keep telling you guys, these super chats really do help, so thank you very much. Have you seen the Kingsman films? I've seen the first Kingsman film, and that's it. I did want to see the second one, but I never got around to it, and then there's a third one that's already out, and I've not gotten around seeing that either. Apparently Matthew Vaughn's gonna make one more. That's what he says, which is interesting, because I think the third movie that came out didn't do so well. So if he's going to make another one, great. I'm happy that he's going to make another, but I still need to see them. So yeah, I haven't seen the Kingsman film. But I do really want to watch more of it. Okay, Flash Edits has asked another question. Let's see. The funniest post on Marvel Studios' Instagram was a review from someone who said the Marvels is everything a comic movie should be, but maybe that's just he or she's opinion, so I won't judge much. I agree with that too, that it's their opinion, so don't judge much, but there was one that I was judging, because one reviewer on Rotten Tomatoes said that, what was what the reviewer said? I remember this. I can remember this quote. He goes, "The Marvels is the movie I've been waiting for all my life." And I was like, really? There's a lot of superhero team-up movies. Why did this one be the one that you were waiting for? That was so weird. Yeah, super weird. Zilla Universe, are you serious with this? Zilla Universe, I hope this is true. I really do. He goes, good news. Coyote vs. Acme might be saved as Warner Brothers have changed their minds and are now shopping it to different streaming services. That is what they should have done the first time. I don't know why they just... David Zaslav said he's just going to get rid of it. Let me look into that. I got it. I'm sorry, I've really just got to look at that. Because I really loved the idea of this when I heard about that, because if you've grown up watching Looney Tunes, and especially Wile E. Coyote, the idea that he's going to sue Acme, because he uses those things all the time. He's always waiting for the Roadrunner to come, and then he pushes the lever down, and then nothing happens. He goes like this, and then the Roadrunner shows up and is gone, and then he scratches his head and he looks at it, and then he just tries it and it blows up right in front of him. The fact that he's suing them for that is such a phenomenal idea. So funny. Kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie in the sense that they have live action and animation. So, Coyote versus Acme. Let me see. Because I heard they were not going to shop it. Oh, they have. 14 hours ago. It says 14 hours ago, but all the mainstream articles from Variety are coming out from an hour ago. Oh, that is so great. Where are you? Where are you? Zilla Universe? You made my day, buddy. Thank you very, very much. I feel so happy. Really, I do. FNA fanboy, it's okay. I told Flash Edits he can spam 3 times in a stream. He used to spam a lot more, but I said to him, if just do it 3 times and I'll be alright with that, so it's okay. I know what it's like trying to get your question answered. So growing up, I've spammed a lot of live streams too. So I know I've cut down it too, but I can empathize with you. So that's all right. FN fanboy, what are you talking about? That's bullshit. No one asked for this movie. Which movie are you talking about? Oh, I'm assuming it's the Marvels. I thought it was Acme versus Coyote versus Acme for a second there. That's good. They're shopping it around. I hope they release it very soon. I want to see it before the end of this year because I'm so excited for that movie. Yeah, Zilla said you said yes, you are serious. I double checked. It turns out you are, and I cannot be more excited. Also, I gotta tell you, I really do like John Cena. Because when he was in Fast and Furious 9, I was like, oh god, are they trying to force another wrestler, try and turn him into an actor? John Cena, I was like, I never really see him as an actor in that way. He just seems to... He was in the Fred movie and stuff, I was like, I just don't see it. However, I will say, once I saw him in Suicide Squad, I thought he was good, but not great. Peacemaker made me a fan. And do you know how I know it made me a fan? Because when I saw Fast and Furious 9, I was like, oh god, are they putting... him in it? Why is he even in here? He's Dom's brother? Oh, why? Like, I didn't like it. I didn't hate it, but I was like, this is not winning me over in any way. But when I saw Fast 10 a couple months ago, and when he showed up on screen like a surprise. I got excited. I kind of got off of my seat like this, and I was like, oh, he's in this. Like, I didn't even know he was in it. And I just said to myself, hang on, what just happened? Because when he was in Fast 9, you did not care. When he's in here... all of a sudden, now you are super excited. And I was like, wow, Peacemaker really did make me a fan. So, John Cena played Eddie Brock? Nah, not really. I don't really see that. But then again, he's got range, so I'm open to seeing what he could do. But yeah, I think John Cena is a great actor. James Gunn did right by him. He really, really did. And yeah, I am so excited to see him in anything at this point. So yeah, if he's in this movie, I'm looking forward to it. Apparently, Denzel Washington is going to play Hannibal for Netflix. I just saw that information. So, great actor. I never would have imagined him having that role. So that's so bizarre. The new King K goes, yo! As you're speaking, Marvel just revealed Doctor Doom is replacing Kang as the new big bad of the MCU. Is that a thing? How much of this news articles are coming out here? Let's see. Doctor Doom. Look at the news section. Are they... I don't see anything about that. Doctor Doom replaces Kang as the Avengers' main villain in epic MCU art. That looks like an art... If you could put an article in the chat as to where you're getting this information, then yeah, I could have a look, but I don't think so. Arathorn999 says, what score would you give Invincible? The first season I would give it was it a 9, I think I gave it. But season 2 I've still not seen yet. I'm gonna watch it on my Let's Watch show on Patreon. I'll be watching it for the first time then. So if you want to see my reactions and see, just watch me watch the episode and then have a review of it, of each episode at the end, then head on over to my Patreon and you'll get, not only will you get access to the newer videos I do with the Let's Watch Invincible, but you'll get access to all of my previous Patreon content, including all the trailer reactions and my previous Let's Watch of stuff, including my Let's Watch of Secret Invasion Season 1 and Let's Watch of Five Nights at Freddy's, so, and my review of that as well. Thoughts on Avatar The Last Airbender trailer? I did that on my Patreon too, funnily enough. Good stuff in there, but I gotta see more. Jake DeBraun goes, by the way, you know Warner Brothers has a bunch of other projects they can/buried despite being finished. They've been giving lots of LS recently? Losses lately, do you mean? Thank you again for the super chat. And yes, I know. They apparently canned an Adventures of Gumball movie, which was actually a good Cartoon Network show. The fact they were going to make one of those, that was cool. They were also going to make a Batman Beyond animated movie as well, which they've canned as well. There was one thing they were going to can originally. It was that Batman Caped Crusader show, but then they ended up giving it over to Amazon and trying to get money through different outlets, which is what they were trying to do. So yeah, I'm surprised they were originally going to get rid of that movie. The Movie King 3000, another super chat. Seriously, guys, thank you so much for this. Let's read your question. Do you think it's a good idea for the MCU to replace Kang as the big bad for the MCU with Doctor Doom? Honestly, I'd say no. Because let's just say they do replace it with Doctor Doom. Then what? We don't like these characters ultimately. We might not hate them, some we might hate, but on the whole we might not hate them, but no one's connecting to any of these characters like they did with, say, even one of the most obscure characters in the first few phases of the MCU. Like, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy. So obscure. They connected far better in their first movie than any of these Phase 4 and 5 characters are connecting. So I would say at this point, you have to do one of two things. One, you're going to have to bring in Doctor Doom, and if you bring him in, you're going to have to make sure that he kills off a ton of these MCU characters and simplify what you have left, and you got to tie it into the overall story. Don't just get rid of them because you don't like them no more. You got to tie it in. So maybe do a 5-10 years later and just show that the Eternals and all these other characters, they've met Nick Fury and they are essentially a part of the Avengers now. And then do something like, say, what Invincible did at the end of season 1, in the first episode of season 1, where you have the main bad guy just wipe out and kill all of those Avengers that you don't want, and then basically have a much more simple group of heroes to work with. And then you can start building up from there and introduce the X-Men and introduce Fantastic Four and go from there and continue it. That's one thing you can do. The second thing you could do is do one of the comics that I've read and I really did enjoy, which is Deadpool kills the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That normally they try to reboot stuff with X-Men Days of Future Past or The Flash. Try rebooting it with this, where Daredevil comes in and goes, I get you guys. Marvel, they've not been doing very good, and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to help you guys and wipe the slate clean and make it easier. Yeah, you can break the fourth wall, make it funny, make it bloody, make it rated R. People will go to see that. That is an event movie, because movies... We've seen some event movies recently, like Barbie, Oppenheimer, and we've also seen Five Nights at Freddy's was very much an event movie. They could make this an event movie. Daredevil kills the MCU, and you could say that is the final movie for the final Marvel movie for the next 3 years, next 5 years. Whatever it is you want to say, you could do that, and it'll make people think, oh, this is the last Marvel movie, I'll go see it. Everyone will flock, and it will be an event of a movie. So those are my ideas for what they should do, I think, to the MCU going forward. All right, Flash Edits goes, what movie was better, the Marvels or the Marvels? Without a doubt. Mainly because of Miss Marvel. Odile says, thoughts on the Insomniac cinematic universe. I like the first two Spider-Man games and Miles Morales game. The Wolverine game, I've heard rumored is going to be rated R, or TVMA, or not TVMA, just rated M for mature or 18 here in the UK. So that's great. I don't really care so much about them crossing over yet. We'll see how they do it though, but I feel like that'll be a long-term thing if they can actually deliver on that. And games take a long time to make. Hey Eric, what do you think of the Star Wars prequel trilogy? I like them. I love the third movie. First movie I thought was... First and second movie, there are good things in them that I've liked. Adam Grunther, you come back. Did you just take a break, did you? Or were you always watching? Because I did answer your super chat question about David Zaslav. And I was asking if you were here. You didn't show up. Thank you very much for the $20 super chat. Seriously, guys, and seriously, Adam, I really do appreciate the support. Really, I do. At one point, I was so. Sometimes your guys' generosity makes me so happy. It actually does bring a tear to my eyes. Like, it actually gets my eyes to burn and water. Adam Grunther goes, personally, I've disliked Zaslav since he cancelled Batgirl. Shelving a completed movie is not okay. If you're worried about it failing, don't greenlight it. Getting rid of it after they put in the hard work is cruel. I agree with you on that. The thing with this is that Batgirl was already greenlit before he came, so he was probably got rid of it for that. I can see why he cancelled it, but at the same time, I've said that Marvel maybe should consider doing tax write-offs for some of their upcoming projects. Like, who cares about Ironheart? Who cares about the Agatha show? I'm actually hearing there are less good rumors coming out where people are actually skeptical about it. And because a lot of these shows are being written with the same mindset that a lot of these current shows are being written with, and these current movies are being written with. So it's like, technically for that, it would actually be of their benefit to just tax write them off. But I do agree with you when you say that people worked on it and it's cruel. That's why I said what they should do is release them as... Do you know how with TV shows they release the lost episode? Something that, for whatever reason, did not make it to air. But rather than just completely bury it, they say we're going to do the lost episode or something. I think they should do that with Batgirl and a lot of these other stuff. They should just say it's the lost episode or the lost movie, or put it in some kind of black market. I don't know. They don't put stuff in black markets, do they? I would like to see a black market out there for movies like that, because back in the day they used to do that. They used to apparently have VHS tapes of movies that were cancelled or that were got illegitimately, and they would somehow be in these video stores, and people say, hey, check this movie out. In the UK, what we had back in like the 70s and 80s and stuff, the BBFC, which is you have the MPAA in America, we have the BBFC here in the UK. They were very strict about what movies were allowed in, because movies that were bloody, they would just ban them. Like The Exorcist, for example. I think that was just straight up banned in the UK. But my dad, during my dad's time frame, I think he said at one point that a friend of his came over from America and he had a VHS tape and he goes, hey, do you want to see this movie? And I think it was The Exorcist. It was either The Exorcist or it was another movie. And he goes, my dad's like, I've not heard of this movie. Then he goes, yeah, because they've not allowed you to release the movie just because the system thinks it's too violent to distribute in the UK. But this was, I think, was it home recorded or something? But my dad basically saw that. That was the thing that happened basically back then, when people would like how you import movies now and stuff. That was kind of their version of importing back in the time, and yeah, it was actually a thing where people got to see movies that were uncut, or movies that would be limited release, and then they would have a VHS copy or something. That was the thing that would happen back in the day, and I think they should try to continue doing those for certain movies that did not come out. Pizza Man, if you want to spam, please do it 2 or 3 times, but not 4. Hey Eric, what do you think of the Star Wars prequel trilogy? Yeah, I like the first one, I like the second one, I love the third one. Second one was cringy with the romance, but do you know what? When it was not focusing on that, there was a lot of fun stuff in that. Hey Eric, do you have faith in James Gunn's DCU slate? Yes, I do. Let's wait and see what he does. I feel like James Gunn is especially looking at what's going on with Marvel, and I hope Marvel is looking at what he's doing and thinking, okay, let's try to do that. Adam Grunther, another comment? Let's see. It doesn't matter. That's manipulating your crews, so they just work for absolutely nothing. If I put in my life's work, I was told it's not happening after I did everything, I'd be crushed. I agree. I do agree. What you just said there is kind of what is happening with the VFX artists over at Marvel. They tell them, here, we've shot this, work on these VFX, and they work on them for months and months and months and months. And then Marvel do reshoots and say, alright, throw that out. We've shot this new scene. You got to do the same thing you did there here, but you got 1 or 2 weeks to do it. And they've actually said that the VFX artists have actually broke down crying because of that. So it's actually made people very upset in other places too. So I do agree with you that plan your stuff out before you start cancelling them. So yeah, I do agree with you on that. It would be heartbreaking. So yeah, I do think thing is he's not going to undo it, unfortunately, because that means he won't get that tax write-off. I think he just can't do that now. But like I said, I hope that there's the black market. I hope there's a way they can find a way to get it over, because it's not like when you just get movies over from America, bring them to the UK. People do that all the time with all kinds of stuff. This is actually having to go into the vault of Warner Brothers and try to take something out that they'd literally tried to keep locked. So yeah. Okay guys, 5 more minutes and then I'm going to go off because I still haven't eaten and my throat is so sore. So if you've got any super chats you want to put into me right now and get your question answered sooner, but now is the time. As for everyone else, let's start going through some of these questions. What MCU movie are you excited for in the next few years as Flash edits? Well, Deadpool 3, if Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman get to have full creative control on that. I want the MCU and Kevin Feige to stay well away from that. And I don't want the Marvels to be in there. You're getting an X-Men movie, the last characters I want is for them to be in a movie that is this lame and that's doing this badly. And they even try to hint and set them up as if they're going to be in there. Can you imagine if Ryan Reynolds was like, I was never going to let the Marvels be in here. When did you shoot that credit scene? Are you going to start getting me to reshoot stuff now to connect it with this? I hope he says to them, no. Or on your bike, or get lost. Or the James Cameron route, which is get the F out of my office. Big Bash goes, did you watch the trailer for the new Planet of the Apes? Yes, I did, and it's my reaction is up on my Patreon, where I talk about that. Any other questions? Drifted, I heard you like Demon Slayer, so who your favourite upper moon rank? Upper rank villain, you mean? The brother and sister that both worked as a unit, I thought they were pretty cool in Season 2. Iron Warrior goes, hey, just joined. Homelander or Soldier Boy? Oh, very good question. I would say Homelander, of course. Soldier Boy was a great character, but we've only just seen him for a bit. Soldier Boy was a good character, but we've only seen him for a bit. Homelander, he's the character that I really want to see. Because they make him go even more and more crazy with each season. It's just a matter of time before he just snaps and starts going after everyone, because usually he tries to hide it, but at the end of Season 3, he's not really hidden it anymore, so we'll see what happens. Rumour is Season 4 might be the last season for Homelander, and Butcher might be the last season for him too, because I hear they're going to try to close off their arcs. Jacob, before I go, what are your thoughts on Bill Cipher? What's Bill Cipher? That sounds familiar, but I don't know. Oh, a cartoon character for a show. Unless I'm getting that wrong, it looks like it's a cartoon character, Bill Cipher. Oh, it's a Gravity Falls character. I'm sorry, I've seen Gravity Falls a bit, the first couple episodes when I was younger, but then I never got through to finishing it all off. Miles Adair, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. My idea for Disney when they do remakes, like The Lion King, maybe do like a prequel or something, like before the animated movie happens. I agree, they are doing something called Mufasa, which I think is supposed to be an origin movie. Either an origin movie, or it's going to be some kind of prequel story that's not an origin. So they're going to do that, and that will happen, I think, was it end of this year or it's end of next year, I think. They've just recently pushed it to end of next year, as opposed to putting it in July, I think, which is where it was originally. So yeah. Eric, have you seen American Horror Story? Lily Rabe and Sarah Paulson are my favourite actresses on that show. I saw the first season. Me and my brother tried to watch a horror show. It just felt a bit cheap, like they were copying the music from Insidious and stuff, and I was like, this isn't really scary, so we just got out of it and watched something else instead. Ended up watching Bates Motel, and that was a very good show. What do you think to the rumor that the original Avengers might be brought back? Yeah, I think I've already said. I was not... I don't like the idea of it. It just shows that they've basically will have openly admitted that we do not know what to do here. So we are Black Captain America. We failed. That it'll be an admission. It'll be an admission of all the diverse versions of these characters that they've done wrong. Whereas this Captain America, Hulk, all of them, it will just straight out say that yeah, we got it all wrong completely. They shouldn't do it. And plus, those characters have had their great stories. Leave them be. Marvel, if they bring them back, they're just going to ruin what was already great. It shows they're very desperate, though. Now, I got a couple of super chats that just came in. Where is the other one? Let's see. FNA fanboy, I have to ask because I'm a fan of the franchise. What did you rate the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? I'm not going to tell you the rating. If you want to know that, go over to my Patreon because it's still a new video and I want to... that was released within the month, and I want to keep people that are on Patreon feel like they're getting their donations worth. So I'd say I wasn't a huge fan. That's all I'll say for now. The movie King 3000. How would you feel if they brought back the original Avengers? Would it be a cheap cop out or a smart idea? It would be a cheap cop out, like I already said. It would basically be just an admission that we failed with our diverse versions of these characters. So now we're going back to the original ones. But they might as well admit it already because they already have failed. So Sad Man 2000. How do you think of Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor? I didn't really like him that much as Lex Luthor. I thought he was kind of just crazy, but not in the way that I'd like. The best Lex Luthor to me is Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. Theo Harris, thank you again for another super chat. What would you say is the best movie you've seen so far this year? Ooh, that is a cheeky question, a little, that is. Because we're already approaching near the end of this year, and you want me to give you one of my favourite movie of the year. Like, yeah, saying what would you say is the best movie you've seen so far this year? I will say I know one of the movies which is my favourite, but I can't remember the other one, which is bizarre because I knew I had two which were fighting for the top spot. Oh, now I know it. I don't want to tell you, but you gave a super chat, so I feel like I should tell you something because I'm not going to give you the proper answer. I will say this: the movie made a lot of money at the box office, more than people expected. That's what I'll say. Okay, any more questions? Hey Eric, Zilla Universe this is. I got 2 questions left. Thoughts on the West Ball, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by the Legend of Zelda... I got 2 questions left. Thoughts on West Ball, the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes director who's directing Legend of Zelda movie, as well as Lion King 2 and Sonic 3 releasing on the same day. Oh, Lion King 2 and Sonic 3 are releasing on the same day. Is the studios trying to do another Barbenheimer thing? That's what my thoughts are. My thoughts on the Planet of the Apes trailer. I like the look of it, but without Matt Reeves, I'm very concerned. And the fact that he's directing Legend of Zelda, that's not my concern. My concern is that it's Sony and it's being produced by Avi Arad. I don't know what Nintendo are thinking, letting him have control of that. Jake De Bruin, wow, that is a very generous super chat. 28 Canadian dollars. Thank you very, very much. Your question is, bear with me. A few questions. Most overrated movie / underrated film. Favorite cartoon series. Do you like the Rayman games? Horror movie victim you wish survived. Movie you liked as a kid but not now, or vice versa. By the way, I feel I feel generous. You certainly do. Like, seriously, thank you very much for that. I keep telling you guys, all these donations really do go towards helping me and making this a living, because I have been struggling lately, so the super chats like this, they really do help, so thank you very, very much. Thank you, Jake, thank you, Adam, thank you, Theo, thank you, everyone. The Movie King 3000, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry if I missed someone. I'm almost recovered from the cold, as you can tell. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Overrated movie. Spider-Man Homecoming. That's the first one I think of. Because I didn't like that movie that much. I thought it was too basic and not really about much, and it was shot like a Nickelodeon movie, and people said this is the best movie when it came out. I did not understand that. The best Spider-Man movie. And they were saying, see, just give it to Marvel. I did not get that at all. Do you like the Rayman games? I played some on the DS when I was a kid. I think I played one on the Game Boy Advance. Not really my thing. Too platformy. I think I needed platform and action. Crash Bandicoot was more my thing. And Crash Bandicoot 3 I loved. Horror movie victim you wish survived. At the end of Smile, that ruined the whole movie for me. I thought the movie did a great job of trying to say that the horror was ultimately coming from trauma and everything, but the character conquered the trauma, so they should be rewarded by the end, but instead they did the stupid horror movie death last minute twist, which was just a dumb one, and I hated it. So I think she should have survived. And I know there are plenty others I can point to as well, but that's the one that most recently I was like, that character should have stayed alive, because it ruined the whole movie for me. But that happens normally in general with movies when you have good characters and you just kill them off. Movies you liked as a kid, but not now. That's a good question. I really got to dig deep into my head for that one. Maybe movies that I like. Well, I I haven't seen a lot of movies that I liked when I was a kid lately. So that's actually a question I'm asking myself. Like, if I go back to it, would I like it? Probably The Borrowers is one of them. I remember when I was a kid, no, I got it. Liked as a kid, but I don't like now. Inspector Gadget. I liked Inspector Gadget when I was young, and when I was young, I didn't know why, but I really did like Matthew Broderick as an actor, because I liked him in Godzilla, because I liked the Godzilla movie when I was a kid. The 98 one, or 90, yeah, it was the 98 one, I think. I liked that movie as a kid, and he looked like Joey from Friends to me, Matt LeBlanc at times. And I just liked his personality, the way he presented himself. So yeah, I used to love Inspector Gadget when I was a kid. But then at one point, my dad, he bought it on DVD, finally, for me. And I watched it out of nowhere. I was like, this doesn't seem as good as it did when I first watched it. Or when I watched it multiple times on TV when I was a kid and stuff. We recorded it on TV as well. But yeah, I loved that movie as a kid. And when I'm older, I'm like, what was I thinking? Iron Warrior, thank you for another super chat, $2 super chat. Hey, Sonic 1 or 2? Also, will you watch Napoleon? Sonic 2. I like Sonic 2 better. Also, will I watch Napoleon? We'll see, because I still want to watch, was it The Great Duel? The Last Duel, which is Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's movie, directed by Ridley Scott. I still want to see that, and I haven't seen it. That's a period piece I still haven't seen. And it's like, what, am I going to watch Napoleon, another period piece movie? I was like, I'd rather watch one first, then get to this. So I'll get to that eventually, but maybe at some point. But I'm not overly thrilled to watch that, so we'll see. Is Fast 10 better than Fast 9? Yes, Fast 9 I thought was crap. I put it in my... It was Fast 9, I think, that I put on my worst movies list, which is the first for me. Flash Edits. What is your favourite non-MCU movie? What do you mean favourite non? Do you mean comic book movie related wise? Do you mean my favourite Marvel movie that's not an MCU movie? Or just a favourite non-comic book movie? Jess says Joss Whedon or Russo brothers, of course. What's your favourite video game movie? Says Ethan's Drawings. George Phillips, I think Shaun of the Dead is better than Hot Fuzz and The World's End. I love Hot Fuzz. Sorry, Hot Fuzz is better than Shaun of the Dead and World's End, if I said that wrong. Yeah, Hot Fuzz is one of my favourite comedies of all time. Back to the other question that I was answering. Oh, yeah, Fast 10 better than Fast 9. Let's see. What's your favourite video game movie from Ethan's Drawings? That was it. Favourite video game movie... That is a good question. Right now, because nothing's coming to my mind. Let me quickly look it up so I can give you an answer. Let's see here. Man, this just reminds you how many bad video game movies there are. I'll say... I remember liking Rampage a lot. The Dwayne Johnson movie. I did remember liking that. I had a lot of fun with that. But for the moment, I'll say Sonic 2, because I did enjoy that a lot. Okay, Iron Warrior, a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. A lot of super chats. Really appreciate this. Forgot to ask, what do you think of Gen V now that the show is over? Very good question. First of all, first episode of Gen V, I did not like very much. It was just too much of Gen Z. I know it's in the name, Gen V, but Gen Z, modern teenagers saying, oh, I'm going to go to his party. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Oh, bro, you can't say that now. You'd get cancelled. So it's like all that kind of modern lingo. I was like, I'm sick of hearing this. And when the characters act like party animals, I don't like them very much. There was some really cool stuff in the first episode, but still, there was a lot of stuff where I was like, I'm not really liking these characters very much. It wasn't until the end of the first episode where I was like, alright, now something is happening. And then as the episodes went on, the characters got less party bro-ish, and they became more like characters that had to deal with some serious stuff that was going on. Then it started to get really good, and I was like, okay, it's getting better and better with each episode. So I thought it was great by the time we got to the end. But man, it didn't. I was concerned. I was thinking I wasn't going to like this at first, because it felt like a Netflix teenage show. You know, those teen Netflix dramas you get that Netflix is full of. I was like, I hope this doesn't fall into that category, which I was concerned it was gonna. The Movie King 3000 with a $5 super chat. Thank you very, very much. Again, for these super chats, they just confirmed that they might be straying away from Kang. It was confirmed by the former writer of Kang Dynasty. Was it? Post the article in the chat for me and I'll take a look at it. Because, yeah, Kang, it does seem to be... It's like Marvel are still waiting for Jonathan Majors and his court case, but a lot of us are just getting tired, and the movies are not holding us over. Neither are the shows. They're just making us think even more, where is this going? Why are we still having to sit through the Kang plotline? When will the Kang plotline even continue? Why even bother with Kang? There's just so much frustration around that I think they should just can it. That, no pun intended, Kang. Flash Edits goes, I mean non-Marvel movie, not set in the MCU. Okay, if I'm understanding you right, non-Marvel movie not set in the MCU. Does that mean a non-Marvel movie? So it's just any movie. Is your question then just any movie? What is I'm still confused by your question. It's like I don't know what answer to give. Clarify it for me, please, and then I'll answer it. Because I want to answer your question, but it just seems very open, like too open. Needs some more limitations and restrictions, so I know what you're trying to ask. Or ask it the other way, like what's your favorite non-comic book movie? Something like that. Because non-MCU, does that mean I can say DC? Because if you're going to say DC, what's my non-favorite? I'll say Dark Knight, if I can bring them into it. Hey Eric, have you watched the 2012 TMNT 20... Oh, what is that? Have you watched the Turtles 2012 before? Yes, I have. I thought it was decent. Have you seen the Peacock's Twisted Metal show? I haven't. Twisted Metal was a game I played a little on my PSP just to give it a go, but then I got rid of it. But yeah, no, I have not watched it. I've heard a lot of bad things about it, but I've also heard really good things about it too. The Kang storyline expanded in Loki Season 2, so yeah, there is a problem right there. What do you think of The Last of Us Part 2? I love the game, but I heard about the controversy surrounding the game, and plus about the death threats of the actors who worked in the game. I never liked that. Death threats on the actors. First of all, never give death threats. Second of all, if you want to let your opinions be heard, tell it to the producers and the writers, and the studio. That's where you should send it, not the actors. They were just taking a gig, for crying out loud. Just taking a job. So, yes. Have you ever seen American Pie? No, I haven't. But in regards to The Last of Us, I was so looking forward to getting the second game. I've got The Last of Us Part 1 back there, Last of Us, the original. I was looking so forward to playing The Last of Us 2, and I trusted Neil Druckmann. He goes, just trust by us that we love these characters and we'll do the best by them. We'll do good by them. And then the leaks came out of what happened to Joel, and the way it was done, execution, it was just done for the sake of being done. It was one of those things where I felt like, again, they just killed off the white male character, and they swapped him out with a lesbian character. It felt like a diversity hire. That was not good. I wanted Joel to basically, but I wanted it to be done in a way that made me cry, made it good, made it emotional, made it great, made it feel like it was for something. But it wasn't. And it pissed a lot of people off, myself included, that I did not buy the game. I actually was going to buy the game for full price, which I rarely do, except for games that I'm so anticipating, like a Batman game or a Spider-Man game. I'll buy those full price, but I'll never buy games full price usually. I'll wait for a discount because I think the prices for games are too high, and they're even getting higher now. But for Last of Us 2, I was willing to put the money down. But when those leaks came out, I was like, forget it. I'm not putting the money down. And I looked on YouTube, thought, let's take a look at the first 30 minutes of the game, see if I like it. If I like it, I'll put the money down and buy the game. That's going to apparently about 20 hours or something, I heard. I did not like it. What happened in the first half hour, I was like, forget it. The rest of the game is me playing a bunch of characters that I don't like. Alright, Flash Edits. I mean a Marvel movie not set in the MCU. Example, Spider-Man by Sam Raimi or Hulk 2003 by Ang Lee. Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, then yeah, Logan is probably one of my favourites. And Raimi's Spider-Man, the first one. That, I would say, is my favourite. Russo brothers or Lord and Miller? That's a very hard question. Lord and I'll say. Oh boy, man, that's a hard question. I'll say Russo brothers. There, I said one answer, but my mind might change at another point. Do you think we need a Last of Us 2 director's cut? I have not even played The Last of Us 2, so I don't even know. What is the best Arkham game? For me, it's Arkham City. Arkham City is the best Arkham game. Blade being rated R, what do you think? It should have been rated R from the beginning. Now get good writers and make the script designed around an R-rated story, because I don't want a PG-13 script with just some R-rated violence and language in there. That's no good. You need an R-rated script as well, with R-rated story. What was one of the other questions there? I think it was about Last of Us. Iron Warrior. What do you think of the Last of Us show now that it's over? I'll be honest with you. I saw about the first 3-4 episodes. I stopped when it came to the two brothers. At the end of the episode, it showed them, and then it just ended, meaning watch the next one. Because to me, the show just wasn't as impactful as the game. I thought the game was better acted, better emotions, better impact. The shock value was much more shocking. Far better, I thought. So, alright, we're gonna 6 minutes, and then I'm gonna sign off, because I have not eaten. I need to get food, and I also, my throat is getting so sore answering these questions. How long have we been streaming for? 2.5 hours. Wow. That's a long stream. Last time I did it was 2 hours and 15 minutes, or 2 hours 20, so doing it longer now. So if you want any of your questions answered instantly before the time runs out, super chats are there and I'll see them instantly. Zilla Universe. The only time I paid full price for a video game was recently for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and thankfully it was well spent. That is great. But I play games on my Steam Deck, and I've been spoiled by all the discounts and bargains you can get on Steam keys and Steam. And so for me, I feel like I can't really look at the price of a full price game anymore and actually spend that. Unless it's something I'm super fanboy about, like Batman or Spider-Man. Although I'm not getting the new Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game, and I'm not getting the Gotham Knights game, which came out either, because that was not good from what I saw. Eric, do you prefer Thor 1 and 2 of the recent comedic Thor movies? Yes, I do. Thor 1, I think, is better than those comedic Thor movies. Comedic Thor movies. Comedic Saw movies? What would that be like? Will you ever watch Better Call Saul? I wanted to, but it's been so long now, and I've got so much other stuff to watch that I don't know if I'll get to it. We'll see. Maybe at some point, but not now. Almighty Low 54. Oh, it's great to see you on the stream. I heard Michael Green, who did Blade Runner 2049 and Logan, is doing the script. I have high hopes it'll be good. Yeah, I talked about that in my live stream earlier. Someone asked a question and I gave the answer. I was talking about it and saying that it's a Logan writer. So long as Marvel leave him alone, he could do something good. If you could do a Star Wars project, what would it be? Says Ardulan4210. I would redo the Obi-Wan show. Act like that previous season didn't happen and redo it again. George Phillips, Red Dead 2 or Last of Us 1? Last of Us 1, because I've not played Red Dead. Because I've not played Red Dead 2. Breaking Bad or Avatar The Last Airbender? Avatar The Last Airbender, without a doubt. No question. Avatar The Last Airbender is my favourite show of all time. So, yeah. I have recently watched Avatar The Last Airbender all over again, by the way, and about 2-3 weeks after watching it later, I then went to watch Korra, and now I'm on season 2 of Korra, because I watched season 1 and I'm going through Korra. Eric, Jess says, Eric, I think you're the best YouTuber of all time. I'm proud of you. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Anakin Solo said, thank you. What did I say? 3 more minutes. So, like I said, if you want to get your questions to the top of the pile, the super chats, that's what the super chats are there for. If you could start a Star Wars project. Oh, Odilon, you meant like a new story. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stories to tell, but I'm not really the one that's looked into the expanded lore, so I can't really tell you what those stories are. So, yeah, I don't really know. Maybe I'd like to see a Darth Vader story, like showing more of his life, which is kind of what I wanted in the Obi-Wan show, but they didn't do it. So if I could do a Star Wars project, it would be more about Darth Vader, what he does on his day-to-day, and show the sadness and tragedy of that, what he's in. And when he's alone, does he contemplate about his past? But then when people show up, he just tries to act all stoic and cold about it. That would be interesting to delve into, I think. So when he's not on screen, and he's on his own, we think in our own minds, what is it that he gets up to? You know, what is he experiencing right now? Extraction 1 or 2, says Arathorn999. Extraction 1. 2 I thought was crap. Had some good action, but it was crap. It's like, the story felt like straight to DVD, like they didn't have a story. The first movie was based on a book, but the second movie, they had to create an original story, and you can tell they didn't know what to do. Do you like your favourite show more or your favourite movie? That is a question I never would have thought of. No problem, Odulon4210. No problem at all. I'd say Avatar: Last Airbender. There you go. Avatar: Last Airbender is better than The Dark Knight. You got there. I've said it. Are you happy? Jess says it's Morbin time. Honestly, it's not as funny a joke anymore. Because I feel like you've been saying it a lot of times on my videos at points. With that same emoji too. So, not as funny. I'm glad you find it funny, but for me, I feel like I've kind of got tired. Also, because when I put the Morbius review out, I didn't even know the Morbius memes were a thing, and I just got hit with them at full force, all at once. It was so much, really it was. And it threw me off, and then people were still doing it afterwards, and I thought, okay, it was funny, but it got to a point where I was like, alright, I'm kind of Morbined out of those, so it's clearly not Morbin time. Do you like the M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender move? You know that no self-respecting person or a person who loves the Avatar show would love that Airbender movie. No, I don't. Let's hope the movies are good too. Oh, Jake, Jake, thank you again very much for another super chat. 14 Canadian dollars at this point. Thank you very much. I'll give 2 more minutes. Anyone in the live stream who also wants to ask questions, go right ahead. But again, super chats I can see, like with Jake's here, because it's just so much. It puts them right in front of the pile, basically. So, what do you think is the lamest superhero? More questions. What do you think is the lamest superhero? Lamest superhero. Oh, there's a lot of them. I'll think about that one. Favorite spin-off movie. Favorite spin-off movie is Logan. Mario or Sonic as characters. Mario, I would say. Mario, I think, with regards to the movies. But I did like Sonic a lot as well. But I'll say, sometimes it can change depending what mood I'm in. I'll say Sonic, actually. Sonic. Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon? Cartoon Network. Nickelodeon had Avatar and Korra. But the rest of the stuff is stuff that is really good. But Cartoon Network has stuff that's more deep. Although if you talk about Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon now, I haven't kept up with them now. But Cartoon Network is a shell of what it used to be back in my time. My time, they had so much variety. Kids Next Door, Ed and Eddie, Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10 Alien Force. It's just so much stuff. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It was unbelievable. Billy and Mandy. And what was the first movie you watched in theaters? The first movie I watched in theaters, I've been trying to think about that, but I can't remember. The earliest my mind goes back to is Tarzan, the animated Tarzan. I think that was back in 1999. That's the earliest memory I have of going to theaters. So I think it was Tarzan. There might have been one before that, but if there was, I cannot remember it. George Phillips, best DC game or best Marvel game? Best DC game is the Batman Arkham games, especially Batman Arkham City, and the best Marvel game is for me, it was Ultimate Spider-Man. I actually really loved that, but now it's got to be one of these Spider-Man games. Spider-Man 1 or Spider-Man 2. Iron Warrior, thank you for the super chat again. Can't believe Sony thought to re-release more. Can't believe Sony thought to re-release Morbius. Yeah, I can't believe it either. And Jake, I forgot one more question I said I was going to answer of yours, which is, who is the lamest superhero? Have you seen Secret Invasion? Amelia Clark's character in that. What was her name? Rava? No, not Rava. That's a Korra thing. The daughter of... what was his character's name? I keep forgetting the names, but of Nick Fury's Skrull friend. His daughter. She's the lamest. I say, she is the lamest superhero, I'd say. Okay, so we got 1 minute on the clock, 1 minute on the clock left. So like I said, super chat. Gaia, that was it. Thank you, George Phillips. Gaia. Talos, that was his name as well. Talos' daughter, Gaia. I did not like her. She's the worst. But then again, there might be more, and I'm just not thinking of them right now. I'm positive there must be another worse one out there. But that's the one that's coming to me right now, so I'm giving that answer. Christian Bale or Robert Pattinson, Batman? Christian Bale so far. I love Robert Pattinson, but still Christian Bale so far. But he's had 3 movies, so let's give Robert Pattinson more chances. Eric Odell says, Eric, could you do an Avatar live action versus animated when it comes out? Yes, I'm planning to do that. And I'm also thinking of doing some Patreon coverage of the Avatar show as well. So you want to head over to Patreon for that? Because I've already done a trailer reaction on Patreon. I'm going to plan on doing coverage on Patreon too. But we'll see how I go with that. Because I need to wait for it to come out and then plan what I'm going to do. Hey Eric, what do you think of the Five Nights at Freddy's? I've already answered that question. It wasn't really for me. The new King K, biggest movie hot take. I did not like the movie Cars. I think that's a hot take because a lot of people did like it. I didn't even like the first Finding Nemo all that much either. I thought it was okay when I was a kid. Saw it again, I thought it was a bit better than okay. So who knows? Maybe if I see it now, I'll love it. But when I was younger, it was the character, that fish that keeps forgetting her memory, that I thought was a bit annoying after a while, even when I was a kid. I did like the father-son dynamic. You know, Nemo and his father dynamic. Eric, what's your favourite horror game? The Last of Us. I don't play horror games that often, to be honest. Okay, guys. Unless I get any more super chats, I will answer those, of course. But I think that is about it. I am actually going to have to end the stream. How long? 2 hours, 43 minutes stream. That is a long time. Odell says, Eric, did you give Cars second chance? It's good, bro. Trust me. I don't want to have to sit through that movie again. I have a very bad memory of watching that movie in theaters. Connor, yes, I do count that movie as well, because in the UK it did come out in 2023, didn't it? So you caught on to something there. Well done. All right. Eric, what's your opinion on the Pantheon TV show? I've not seen it. George Phillips goes, thanks, man. Made my day. No problem at all. You guys have all made my day. Again, thank you so much for the super chats. You really, really help me go by when you do that. So you guys really are the lifeblood, essentially, of this YouTube channel. So thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate that. All right. Bye, Eric. Says Flash Edits. Thanks, man. Says Arrow999. Thank you to you guys very much. All right. So live stream as always. So thank you very, very much, guys. As always, I really do appreciate it. There's a YouTube tips option, I think, that's there. So if you guys want to click on that afterwards, that is always an option there. But if you've asked any questions now and with the super chats and I don't see it, I'll answer it in the next live stream. But I'm going to try to live stream more often than usual. So thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate everything and all the constant support. And I will catch all of you on the next live.